Chapter 304. Inside the inn, many people looked at a big man in confusion. They didn't understand what he meant by the martial god, and the martial god. The big man in blue suddenly sat up straight and said proudly, "You don't know, in fact, this is not the first time this kind of weather has happened. 10,000 years ago, when the divine martial emperor was young, he fought with the inheritor of the martial god. At that time, the whole endless universe was like this. At that time, someone predicted that one of the inheritors of the divine martial emperor and the martial god would be crowned as the great emperor. And when the two fought, one of them would die. The heavens would fall and the heavens would fall." Nonsense! Who doesn't know that since the divine martial emperor was born, he has never lost a battle? No one can compete with him. I've never heard of the inheritor of the martial god. Lanzheng, you're getting bolder and bolder. How dare you brag about the divine martial emperor's name? Aren't you afraid that the followers of the divine martial emperor will come to trouble you? Everyone was dissatisfied and scolded him directly. The big man named Lanzheng immediately explained, "Don't talk nonsense if you don't understand. I respect the divine martial emperor, but what I said is also the truth. The disciples of the divine martial emperor have been fighting with the inheritor of the martial god for generations. Almost every 300 years, the battle would be one-sided. The disciples of the divine martial emperor were almost all wiped out. If you don't believe me, you can ask the seniors in the divine martial realm. These years, the endless universe has become cold every 300 or 500 years, but it's not as cold as it is now. This means that the disciple of the divine martial emperor must be a terrifying person. And the inheritor of the martial god also has the potential to reach the great emperor." He's telling the truth. The last time the weather changed was 700 years ago. At that time, I was still a child. Millions of cultivators froze to death on the cool star. That heavy snow lasted for a month and covered half of the cool star," said an old voice. Everyone looked at a corner and saw a white-haired old man drinking alone. His chi was hidden, but he was definitely a strong cultivator of the god martial arts realm. "Greetings, master." Everyone was stunned. They didn't expect there to be a god martial realm cultivator here. They all stood up and bowed. Every time the divine martial inheritors and the remnant martial inheritors are about to fight, there will be a cruel change in the weather. Especially on my cool star, it will become abnormally cold. Even practitioners won't be able to withstand it. Based on my experience, this generation of divine martial inheritors and remnant martial inheritors will very likely be able to prove their Tao. Even if they can't prove their Tao, it will be easy for them to become quasi-emperors. For people like them to die at such a young age, the heaven and earth phenomenon will definitely be very intense. This snow will freeze many people to death. Even divine martial realm experts might not be able to escape. I advise everyone to make early plans. Everyone sighed and discussed in low voices. Their expressions became more and more unsightly. Yi Qinghan's fingertips trembled as he thought to himself, "The inheritor of the divine martial arts should be referring to the host of the divine martial imperial codex, which means it's referring to me. What is this inheritor of the remnant martial arts? Why didn't the god martial emperor code remind me?" Whoosh! His sea of consciousness suddenly shook, and the pages of the god martial emperor code automatically flipped. Chapter of the remnant martial arts. The divine martial arts and the remnant martial arts were originally brothers of the same sect. The remnant martial arts had a flaw in his personality and was extremely stubborn. However, he was extremely talented and powerful. He wanted to prove his Tao, so he tried to kill the divine martial arts time and time again. The divine martial arts retreated to the ancient battlefield and cultivated painstakingly until he reached the boundary emperor realm. He created the divine martial imperial codex and wanted to prove his Tao. However, the remnant martial arts fought his way to the ancient battlefield. Out of the two, only one could survive. On the eve of the great battle, the entire universe was snowing and the temperature was extremely low. The divine martial arts experts were all frozen to death. That kind of cold air ignored true Yuan. Mortals and cultivators were almost the same. They had no advantage at all. As long as they stayed outside for a long time, it was easy to hurt their origin. That snow lasted for 2 months and the remnant martial arts died in battle. When the snow stopped, the entire world was white. The divine martial emperor remembered that the remnant martial arts were from the same sect, and set up a stone tablet for the remnant martial arts. However, he made a huge mistake. The remnant martial arts inheritors all wanted to kill the divine martial arts inheritors to prove their Tao and become emperor. In the 5,000 years since the divine martial emperor's death, more than 10 divine martial arts inheritors had died at the hands of the remnant martial arts inheritors. Yi Qinghan frowned. None of the divine martial emperor's inheritors could defeat the remnant martial arts inheritors. Was it because the divine martial emperor's inheritors were too weak, or the remnant martial arts inheritors were too strong? This remnant martial arts inheritance's secret technique is probably not weaker than the God Martial Emperor Code. Who is the remnant martial arts inheritor of this generation? Yi Qinghan thought to himself. Could it be that the destruction of the Owl War Star was also caused by the remnant martial arts inheritors? Sir, does the remnant martial arts inheritors have a special way to find the divine martial arts inheritors? Yi Qinghan frowned and secretly asked the divine martial imperial codex. I don't know. The two words automatically appeared on the divine martial imperial codex in response to Yi Qinghan. But more than 10 divine martial arts inheritors were found and killed by the remnant martial arts inheritors when they were still in the Immortal Gate realm. Yi Qinghan's eyes lit up. If the remnant martial arts inheritors did not have a special method, how could they find the divine martial imperial codex in advance every time? Fate. The two words appeared on the divine martial imperial codex again, and then went silent. Yi Qinghan clenched his fists tightly and stared outside the inn. Evil flames surged from his heart and he muttered to himself. I don't care if you are my enemy or not. If this is really a trap set by the remnant martial arts inheritors, I will definitely destroy you completely. I will make sure that you can't inherit the inheritance. The three of them ate a full meal and frowned as they looked at the snow covering the sky. Master, let's wait until the snow stops. The cold outside is enough to freeze the Immortal Gate experts. It is too dangerous to go out now. Nangong Powa said respectfully. Emperor Yi also nodded. He did not want to go out at this time and be frozen to death. Waiter, think of a way to free up 2 rooms for me. Spirit crystals are not a problem. Yi Qinghan looked out of the window. The temperature outside was enough to break through the defense of an expert. Even if he could withstand it, Emperor Yi and Nangong Powa's physical bodies would not be able to withstand it. The god-slaying eagle's speed would also decrease. Sir, I am really sorry. Now even the woodshed has been rented out to others. These are all our regular customers. It is not good for us to chase them away, is it? You should think of other ways. There are no extra rooms in the entire city. The waiter replied respectfully, afraid of offending them. TSK, these 3 foreigners are really stupid. They are still going out in this terrible weather. Aren't they afraid of death? Little girl, why don't you follow me? My bed is very big and can fit 2 people. It is better than following this gigolo out and being frozen to death. Ha ha ha. Poochie. Nangong Powa's spear was like a straight line, piercing through the throat of the man who spoke rudely. He pulled his spear back and stood cleanly beside Yi Qinghan. Blood swords poured out, sealing the man's life force and completely suppressing him. The atmosphere in the inn was dead. Even the god martial expert frowned as he looked at Nangong Powu. Nangong Powu was swift and decisive. He had been influenced by Yi Qinghan since he was young. When he could use his hands, he would never use his mouth. Kid, you are the first person who dares to fight in the city and in the inn. The god martial expert said with a frown. Some people deserve to die. Killing them is killing them. Senior, there is no need to ask. Yi Qinghan casually tossed over 1,000 upper-grade spirit crystals onto the table. He coldly looked at the men who spoke rudely and said indifferently, You too, take the spirit crystals and get out of the inn by yourselves. Or do you want to be thrown out with the corpses? Everyone's pupils shrank. Yi Qinghan was too domineering. He didn't even put the god martial expert in his eyes. He just tossed out 1,000 upper-grade spirit crystals. He was even more generous than the richest rich on planet Cool. Everyone began to guess where Yi Qinghan came from. The 2 middle-aged men's eyes lit up. 1,000 upper-grade spirit crystals was a terrifying number. Although it was dangerous outside, they were already satisfied with so many spirit crystals. Besides, if they didn't leave, Yi Qinghan would kill them anyway. The two men directly ran to Yi Qinghan's table and took the spirit crystals. "Take the corpses away," Yi Qinghan coldly said. Yi Qinghan's cold eyes were even colder than the outside world. The two men didn't dare to retort. They carried the corpses and rushed to the law enforcement camp in the center of the city. "There are rooms available now. Give the three of them to us." Yi Qinghan looked at the waiter and lightly said. The waiter's face was full of shock. He looked at Yi Qinghan and the other two and didn't know what to do. The god martial expert narrowed his eyes at Yi Qinghan. He was a bit surprised. He had lived for so long, but this was the first time he saw someone kill someone in the city. Not only did they not escape, they even stayed for a night. "Give them 2 rooms, and leave the last one for me," the god martial expert said seriously. Yi Qinghan didn't say much. In this cold weather, it was good enough to have a room. There was no need to argue with the god martial expert over a room. When the owner of the inn heard the god martial expert speak, he quickly asked the waiter to clear out the room. But not long after they moved in, the law enforcers rushed over. The god martial expert was the leader. There were no less than 20 Immortal Gate experts, and no less than 100 Grand Honorables. When they met Yi Qinghan's eyes, even the god martial expert's pupils shrank. When the ancient killing god's 5-star battle robe appeared, the god martial expert didn't even ask anything and retreated with his team. At this time, everyone understood Yi Qinghan's identity. The ancient killing god was respected everywhere. Not to mention the 3 people from before. Even if Yi Qinghan provoked them and killed one and chased the other 2 away, the law enforcers wouldn't dare to say anything. The snow was still pouring down, but the city was still fine. Part of the snow was blocked by the formation, and the snow only flooded the streets, but it was quickly cleared. However, the world outside was completely silvery white, and it was impossible to tell which direction was which. The 3 of them were stuck on Cool Planet for half a month. The snow was still there, but it was much lighter. Yi Qinghan wanted to find Jian Shui as soon as possible and find out the truth about Al War Star. If it was really related to the inheritor of the remnant martial arts, he would at least be prepared. Therefore, he didn't want to stay on Cool Planet any longer. He took Emperor Yi and Yi Qinghan on a journey to Qinghuang Ridge. Chapter 305. Across countless mountains and rivers, the Qinghuang Mountain Star Field was filled with a deathly aura. Death was everywhere. One wrong step would lead one to death. The withered stars, the silent galaxy, even the stars were dim and lifeless. There was only one giant star with life in the entire star field, the Qinghuang Mountain Star, also known as the Heaven's End Star. In the depths of the Qinghuang Mountain Range, there was an enormous palace that had existed since ancient times. It had a vast and mighty aura. There was an ancient tablet erected in front of the palace gate with 2 words engraved on it. It emitted an evil aura and murderous aura that could steal one's soul. Savage Martial. These 2 simple words actually made people feel that they could rush out of the tablet and kill their way into the desolate universe and penetrate the galaxy. Following the palace gate, there was an endless winding path that was overgrown with weeds that covered the traces of time. The vicissitudes of history were all buried. A young man stood in a courtyard and looked at the heavens and sea from afar. His hands were behind his back, and his hair was fluttering in the wind. His back seemed to contain the vicissitudes of history that made people's noses sour. Swish, 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 the young man's green robe fluttered as he turned his body slightly. Half of his face was like a demon and a god. The golden dragon sword in his hand was extremely sharp. With a slight movement, the stable space was shattered. The great Tao Law burst out from his body. The complete great Tao of order was revolving around him, and there was a kind of incomplete beauty. A series of footsteps broke the silence. The young man still didn't turn around and just said indifferently, "Jian Shui, where is he now?" The person who came was dressed in white. She was otherworldly and peerlessly beautiful. She was flawless and had an impressive figure that made people submit. She was Yi Qinghan's wife in his previous life, Jian Shui. There was only a difference of one word between her and Jianqinxue. She also had a face that others coveted. Young Master Zhikanhe reached the Fire Crow region. Do you have to kill him? Jianshue's beautiful face revealed an apologetic and regretful expression. Her voice was like the sound of nature, but it was filled with sorrow and pleading. What? You can't bear to? I didn't put you by his side to make you fall in love with him. The path of the atrocious martial artist is to be emotionless and desireless. If you can't even do this, then go with him. Zaykan's hoarse voice contained a terrifying will. He was the inheritor of this generation's martial arts. No matter how you looked at it, he was perfect. However, he always made people feel that he was missing a part of himself. That part was his emotions. Only a man like him would be willing to let Jianshue stay by Yi Qinghan's side without emotions or desires. Jianshue's body trembled slightly. She bowed and said, "Humans are not saints. Who can be heartless? All these years he has treated me well. If he had self-detonated and died back then, I would have let it go. But since he survived, I really can't bear to kill him a second time." You can't bear to do it? Haha. When he finds you, do you think he won't have the heart to kill you? How many people did Owl War Star have back then? How much blood feud did he have to bear? A dignified 5th-rank clan was completely annihilated. His hatred for you is even more difficult to overcome than the ultimate Sky Sea. Zaykan's mouth curled up slightly. His casual mocking smile was actually able to destroy all lives. Jianshue was silent. Her body bowed humbly. A drop of sparkling and translucent tear fell from her eye. It was like a crystal falling onto the ground. Let Fire Crow Crown Prince make a move. I want to see if my destined enemy is worthy of me making a move. Zaykan laughed evilly and said arrogantly. Jianshue's jade fingers trembled. In the end, she didn't dare to go against Zaykan's will. She turned around and left indifferently. Yi Qinghan, the chosen one of the Divine Martial Imperial Code. The destined enemy of my life. I really don't know if you can defeat the 18 checkpoints I set up along the way and meet me at the ultimate Sky Sea. I hope you don't disappoint me. Otherwise, I will send you to the ultimate Sky Sea, and let the Divine Martial Imperial Code sink into the ultimate Sky Sea forever. In the endless universe, there is only my atrocious martial Tao. There is no Divine Martial Tao. Zaykan was boundlessly arrogant. His aura exploded. He was like a war god that stood at the peak of the 9 heavens. With the great Tao in his hand, he stepped on the natural laws. His body contained the origin. He overlooked the universe. Everything in his eyes was incomplete and distorted. In the Fire Crow star field, in the ancient times, a 9-headed fire crow had almost attained the Tao. It was no different from a great emperor. It only lacked the recognition of the heavens and earth. It could spread its wings and fly high like the sun. Its mouth could spit fire that could burn a boundary emperor expert to death. Unfortunately, it did not defy the heavens and died tragically under the great emperor tribulation. However, the Fire Crow race that it gave birth to had been passed down to this day. Fire Crow Crown Prince was the strongest of the Fire Crow race's younger generation in this era. He had already transformed. With the strength of the 6th layer of the Immortal Gate, he could tear apart a 9th layer Immortal Gate expert with his bare hands. However, he still had to listen to Zaykan's orders. You actually want me to make a move to deal with the trash of the 1st layer of the Immortal Gate. Zaykan, you. Fire Crow Crown Prince's eyes emitted an ominous glint. The flames seemed to have materialized. Wherever his eyes swept, 10,000 techniques were shattered. Humph. Wait until my race has another perfect Boundary Emperor. I will definitely crush the Boundary Emperor behind you. I will tear you apart with my own hands. Fire Crow Crown Prince was unwilling to give up. He stomped on the ground, and the stars moved. He broke through the void and appeared 10,000 miles away, blocking the only way to the ultimate heaven sea. The heavy snow did not form a climate in the Fire Crow star field. When the underground fire source was attacked by the cold air, it automatically protected the stars. The Fire Crow star field was protected within. The temperature was moderate. Hundreds of birds danced, flowers flew, and butterflies danced. It was a magnificent sight. The river of stars flickered with light. A majestic aura existed since ancient times. Hua. The god-slaying eagle's body covered the sky and covered the sun. It spread its wings and flew hundreds of thousands of miles. It constantly dodged the rocks and broke in meteors. Otherwise, its speed would be even faster. Screech. The river of stars rolled back, and all living things sped away. A mournful eagle cry resounded through the universe, shattering space and time. On the eagle's back, Nangong Powu sat cross-legged and remained silent. He never took the initiative to speak. Emperor Yi sat on the other side and maintained his strongest battle strength. Yi Qinghan stood on the eagle's head. His clothes fluttered in the wind. His eyes pierced through the void and found the Fire Crow Crown Prince who was 1,000 miles away. His fingertips trembled slightly. With violent force in his hand, the god-slaying eagle slowed down and stopped at a distance of 10 miles. Such a distance was nothing to them. Someone asked me to kill you. Do you want to kill yourself and have a quick death? Or do you want me to burn you alive? The Fire Crow Crown Prince licked his white teeth with his red tongue and said eerily. Yi Qinghan stepped on the void and continued to approach the Fire Crow Crown Prince. When they were 10 meters apart, he looked at the Fire Crow Crown Prince and asked indifferently, "Who asked you to kill me? The inheritor of the remnant martial arts? Who wants to kill you is not important. What is important is that you are going to die." Hua. The Fire Crow Crown Prince suddenly transformed into his original form. His body was like a scorching sun, shooting out flames. He opened his mouth and directly spat out a mouthful of flames that drowned the surrounding 10 miles. The void was burned into nothingness. Even the air was sucked dry. The god-slaying eagle was forced back by the scorching temperature even though it was 100 miles away. Yi Qinghan, who was in the center of the battlefield, had to endure an unimaginable amount of heat. The Fire Crow Crown Prince sneered and said with disdain, "Shikan, you are really getting worse and worse." Yi Qinghan just happened to comprehend the heavenly dragon eagle binding hand, and became his natural enemy. The Fire Crow Crown Prince didn't even have time to use his special ability, before he was suppressed by Yi Qinghan. "Submit. I submit." The Fire Crow Crown Prince's hair stood on end. He felt the aura of death enveloping him. If Yi Qinghan wanted to kill him, a single glance would be enough. He didn't dare to be arrogant anymore. Yi Qinghan coldly snorted. His soul directly broke through the Fire Crow's sea of consciousness and planted a seed. As long as the Fire Crow dared to resist, he would immediately suppress it. Letting go of the Fire Crow, Yi Qinghan indifferently looked at the human form of the Fire Crow. The Fire Crow's face was deathly pale as he looked at Yi Qinghan in disbelief. The corner of his mouth coldly twitched as he asked in a deep voice, "Who told you to kill me?" "It's Zeikan, the inheritor of the remnant martial Dao." The Fire Crow didn't dare to hesitate and hastily replied. "Zeikan?" Yi Qinghan clenched his iron fists. His aura turned cold as he indifferently asked, "What is his cultivation level?" "Immortal 9th layer, very powerful. I personally saw him kill an early-stage divine martial expert with one move." The Fire Crow recalled that sword that almost pierced through time and space and into his soul. He couldn't help but shiver. Chapter 306. Astral winds raged in the starry sky. Yi Qinghan's eyes were like cold swords, piercing deep into Hoya's soul. From Fire Crow Starfield to Qinghuang Ridge Starfield, dozens of starfields have been conquered by Zeikan. I'm afraid your journey will not be easy. Hoya did not dare to hide anything and reminded him respectfully. "Follow me." Yi Qinghan summoned the god-slaying eagle and took Hoya to the sky, rushing towards Qinghuang Ridge Starfield. In the overturning sea starfield, the Milky Way was like an ocean, rolling and roaring. The stars crisscrossed, and the killing intent was heavy. Endless heavenly might suppressed everything, and the heavens were within reach. A figure stood between the heavens and the earth, holding a towering sword. His clothes fluttered in the wind, and the void collapsed. He was a very young expert at the 5th tier of the Immortal Gate, but his combat strength was stronger than Hoya's. Most importantly, he did not underestimate anyone. Zhou Chen was the ultimate existence of the younger generation of the overturning seas star field. Although he was only at the 5th level of the Immortal Gate, Even those at the 9th level of the Immortal Gate were no match for him. Even those at the Emperor Realm were killed by him. He had only lost to one person so far, and they were at the same level. That person was Zaikan. Zaikan had only used one sword to seal his throat. His speed was so fast that he couldn't react in time. Since then, Zhou Chen had become Zaikan's follower. He was fighting for Zaikan in this battle. Yi Qinghan and the others rode the god-slaying eagle and flew for a day. They were so tired that they could not fly anymore. In the end, Huoya changed back to his original form and carried Yi Qinghan to the Milky Way. After 2 days and 1 night, they crossed a starfield from Fire Crow Starfield to Overturning Sea Starfield. However, before they could enter Overturning Sea Starfield, they were blocked by Zhou Chen at the entrance. Whoosh! A sword pierced through the clouds, and the sword qi pierced through the void. In the blink of an eye, it was in front of Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan activated his Azure Dragon body, but he still felt a tearing pain. Zhou Chen did not even bother to speak, and used a killing move. Master, his name is Zhou Chen, and he specializes in the fatal 13 swords. He kills all his enemies, like a tiger or wolf pouncing on a rabbit. He uses all his strength. Huoya quickly reminded him. Yi Qinghan clenched his fist and the heavy berserk saber appeared in his hand. Heavy heaven punishing strike. When had Yi Qinghan ever held back when Zhou Chen had gone all out? The moment he made his move, he used his strongest move. His saber was unstoppable, shattering the sword qi. With a leap, the saber light broke through the sky. Swish, swish, swish. Yi Qinghan's aura soared to the heavens, as if he was going to break open the entrance to the Overturning Sea Star Field. Boom. The sword and saber clashed instantly. Yi Qinghan's strength was enough to kill a 9th firmament immortal, but his saber seemed to cleave through water. It was soft and powerless. Whoosh! The sword in Zhou Chen's hand suddenly vibrated. He crossed his hands and switched to his left hand. With a flip, he stabbed toward Yi Qinghan's back at an extremely fast speed. Ding! The sword chime pierced everyone's eardrums. Yi Qinghan's left hand shone brightly. His left hand turned into a claw, and the origin of metal gathered. His azure dragon arm was covered in dragon scales, and his veins bulged. His blood vessels were about to break through the shackles as he grabbed at Zhou Chen's sword. Zhou Chen sneered disdainfully. He was as fast as lightning and did not dodge at all. He allowed Yi Qinghan to grab at him. Not only was the sword in his hand fast, but it was also vibrating. Anything that came close would be instantly reduced to dust. Therefore, he was not worried that Yi Qinghan would be able to grab his sword. Boom! Yi Qinghan's left hand was like a divine weapon. It directly blocked the divine sword. Blood flowed out, and the scales were disintegrating. However, it was still unable to shake Yi Qinghan's strength. He had grabbed the back of the sword. Zhou Chen's pupils constricted. His quintessential essence erupted as he tried to pull his sword back. However, Yi Qinghan's strength was too great. Furthermore, he had the Origin Dao body and the Azure Dragon body. No matter how much strength he exerted, Yi Qinghan's sword did not budge. Kacha! Yi Qinghan withdrew berserk and clenched his fist. Within half an inch, he erupted with 200% of his combat strength. His fist pierced through space and crashed into Zhou Chen's chest. Puff! Zhou Chen's pupils dilated as he spat out a mouthful of essence blood. His eyeballs almost popped out of their sockets. The immortal Dao robe on his chest was directly pierced through by Yi Qinghan's punch. The origin of metal was the sharpest element in the world. It was indestructible. The iron fist in Zhou Chen's chest suddenly turned into a palm and directly grabbed his heart. Without any hesitation, Yi Qinghan directly crushed his heart. Seal. Fire. Destruction. Yi Qinghan consecutively used the origin of metal, origin of fire, and the aura of the Tao of destruction to seal Zhou Chen's vitality. The flame essence burned his body, and the aura of destruction completely killed Zhou Chen. An elite of a generation, a super genius, had fallen in just a few moves. It was sad and lamentable. Flames burned the sky as Zhou Chen's corpse returned to nothingness. He died silently. Huoya's pupils shrank. He was stunned by Yi Qinghan's combat strength. Yi Qinghan's close combat strength was something that no one in the same realm could withstand. Can Zaikan withstand it? The divine martial inheritance and the martial atrocity inheritance are destined to be enemies. If Zaikan underestimated Yi Qinghan, he will most likely suffer a crushing defeat. Hoya lowered his head, not daring to look directly at Yi Qinghan. In the martial atrocity hall, Zaikan was still standing proudly in the wind. The golden dragon sword in his hand exuded a gloomy and cold aura. Young master, Yi Qinghan defeated Hoya and Zhouchen consecutively. Hoya submitted, and Zhouchen died tragically. Jian Shui came forward and bowed. Ah, interesting. This is more like it. The divine martial inheritance has existed for more than 10 generations, but no one was a match for the martial atrocity inheritance. In this generation, I will completely destroy the divine martial inheritance. There will only be the martial atrocity path in this world. Zaikan laughed maniacally. He turned his head and stared at Jian Shui. His purple eyes were similar to Zi Tian of the Qilin bloodline. However, there was a different kind of light in his purple eyes that could steal one's soul. Do you know how I will deal with him? Zaikan stretched out his slender fingers and lifted Jian Shui's chin. He sneered and asked. Jian Shui had no choice but to raise her head. There was a struggle in her eyes, but she did not dare to go against the will of the man in front of her. She shook her head and said, Jian Shui does not know what young master is thinking. Let me tell you, from this era onwards, the divine martial inheritance will only be a legend. I will bury the divine martial arts codex in the depths of the ultimate sky sea, including Yi Qinghan. He will be the last divine martial inheritor. Zaikan stared at Jian Shui. I will set up a teleportation array in the Qinling Mountains. The coordinates will be the depths of the ultimate sky sea. You will be in charge of luring him into the teleportation array. This will be your last chance to atone for your sins. You can remind him not to enter the teleportation array. If he does not take this chance, he and the divine martial imperial codex will be teleported to the depths of the ultimate sky sea that is isolated from the ultimate sky sea. No matter how powerful the divine martial imperial codex is, it will not be able to break free from the shackles of the ultimate sky sea. Jian Shui's body trembled. She muttered, Don't you want to kill Yi Qinghan and defeat the divine martial inheritor? If you teleport the divine martial inheritor away like this, won't you have any regrets? What is incomplete is the most beautiful. Moreover, I want the divine martial imperial codex to be completely buried in the ultimate sky sea without any room for struggle. I will personally witness him and the divine martial imperial codex being teleported away. That will be such a pleasing sight. Zaikan indifferently provoked. He wanted to provoke Jian Shui and make her resist him. However, he was disappointed. Jian Shui was not angry and did not resist. She just accepted it. Let's go. I will bring you to see the location of the teleportation array. Zaikan stepped towards the ultimate sky sea alone. There was not a single ripple of true essence on his body. There was no law, no origin, and no great Tao profound. However, he was actually able to fly. Hua hua hua. The ultimate sky sea slammed against the cliff by the shore. Birds could not fly. Once they were in the air, they would fall into the sea and sink immediately. They did not even have the chance to struggle. Zaikan stood on the cliff and looked down at the azure ultimate sky sea. He took a deep breath and said softly, What a perfect ultimate sky sea. There is no life. This is the most beautiful part of it. Jian Shui followed. She looked at Zaikan, who was so cold that it was slightly twisted. She grabbed the corner of her clothes tightly. She was extremely afraid of this man. Do you know? If a quasi-emperor were to fall into the sea, he would also be turned into a stone statue. There are at least tens of thousands of quasi-emperors sleeping at the bottom of the sea. There are also dozens of quasi-emperors. They are confident and arrogant, but in the end, they can't go against the heavens and the universe. Humans are so insignificant. They want to prove their Tao and go against the heavens, but in reality, they haven't even learned the slightest bit of the heavens and earth. Zaikan sneered. He stared at Jian Shui and said indifferently, Since the divine martial emperor, his disciples have all sunk into the ultimate sky sea. Their physical bodies exist with the heaven and earth. They will never die. Yi Qinghan will be the same. However, this time I will throw the divine martial emperor code in as well. Jian Shui clenched her fist and stared at Zaikan. The cliff below my feet is the teleportation formation. Wait for him to come here, and lead him to this cliff. Then, I will let you leave me. Of course, you can also remind him not to come up. However, he will still die. You, on the other hand, will never die like this. See? Zaikan said coldly. Jian Shui clenched her fist and said hoarsely, You are crazy. If you are not afraid of him, why don't you dare to have a fair fight with him? Is he worthy? I can kill such an idiot with a glance. Why would I waste my time fighting with him? Zaikan said disdainfully. Jian Shui snorted and did not want to speak anymore. What? You don't believe that he is an idiot? He still doesn't know who betrayed him. After seeing you, he will immediately accuse you of betraying Xiaozhanqing. If he is not an idiot, what is he? Zaikan sneered. Jian Shui's eyes flashed. She gathered her courage and asked, Young master, can you tell me who betrayed Xiaozhanqing? Was it Yi Kuan? He was the one who told me that Qinghan was looking for Nangong Powu. Then he left. I thought that he was a playboy who wanted to have some fun. That was why I went to inform Nangong Powu. However, I don't understand. Yi Kuan is a member of the Yi clan. Why would he be willing to help you deal with his own brother and slaughter the entire Xiaozhanqing? Even if Yi Kuan betrayed the Yi clan, who pulled out the 8 trigrams formation I saw Yi Kuan leave the Yi clan with my own eyes. Take your time to think about it. I knew that women would ruin things. I did not give you the final plan. This secret will forever be a mystery. Consider this punishment for your disloyalty to me. Zaikan snorted coldly. Jian Shui's heart was burning with anger. This Zaikan was too terrifying. He did everything without leaving any loopholes. If he did not say anything, this secret would forever be a mystery. Chapter 307. Jian Shui and Zaikan looked at each other as sparks tore through space. Actually, I really want to see him kill his last family members one by one. The first one is you, the second one is Yi Kuan, and finally Nangong Powu. Then I will tell him who the real traitor is. Do you think I should torture him like this? Zaikan asked in a low voice. Jian Shui glared at Zaikan as her chest heaved up and down. She was speechless for a long time. If you want him to die quickly, then cooperate with me and lure him to the teleportation array. Otherwise, I'll torture him well. Not only physically, but also spiritually. I'll shatter his Dao heart and make him die of madness. Zaikan threatened in a cold voice. Help me accomplish this and I'll return your freedom. I'll also let bygones be bygones for your betrayal. Half a month later, Yi Qinghan killed 7 experts in a row and successfully broke through to the second stage of the Immortal Gate realm. His victory attracted the attention of the experts of the older generation. Taihing Starfield, Taihing Main Planet. Yi Qinghan brought the 3 of them to Taihing Main Planet's Tianhing City. There was a joyous atmosphere everywhere as many experts of a higher realm gathered. Master, this is the intersection of the myriad races and the human race. It is the sphere of influence controlled by Lord Taiheng. This year is his birthday. Even the experts of the myriad races have to give him face and come to celebrate his birthday. I suspect that Zaikan will also come. Fire Crow bowed and reminded him. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed as he said to Fire Crow, You're here as the crown prince of the Fire Crow clan. We're just your followers. Let me know if you find Zaikan. The 4 of them followed the crowd and walked into the city. All the Star Lords of the Starfield were gathered, and the weakest was at the Immortal Gate realm. Many of the shape-shifting experts of the myriad races were incomparably arrogant as they walked past Yi Qinghan and the others. The ferocious beasts kicked up dust and drowned the surroundings. Bastard! Fire Crow Crown Prince's anger burned the void and removed the dust. He grabbed a shape-shifting expert and almost ignited his soul with his fire essence. The experts of the myriad races only dared to be aggressive towards the human race. Once they saw that the other party was the crown prince of the Fire Crow clan, they didn't dare to resist. Give me the invitation card. Huoya stretched out his hand and demanded. The other party didn't dare to go against his will, so he handed over the invitation card and directly fled out of the city. The 4 of them entered the main city. In the Taihing prefecture, there was a martial arts arena that stretched for hundreds of miles. The spiritual energy was dense, and a powerful boundary emperor stood high above, looking down on everyone. Countless experts knelt down and continuously offered up a large number of supreme treasures and sage medicines that could prolong one's life. Perfected Lord Taiheng, who was also Quasi-Emperor Taiheng, looked at the crowd with a smile. He did not reject any supreme treasures or sage medicines. Yi Qinghan and the others stood to the side. The Fire Crow Crown Prince respectfully stepped forwards and cupped his fists together, saying, "The Fire Crow Clan's Crown Prince Huiyan greets Lord True Monarch Taiheng. I learned that Lord True Monarch Taiheng has special attainments in the path of alchemy, so I specially brought you a flame essence. Although it doesn't enter Lord True Monarch's eyes, it is still the most precious treasure of my Fire Crow clan." "Ha ha ha, so it's Huiyan. It's fine that you're here, but you even brought me a flame essence. How thoughtful." Quasi-Emperor Taiheng had white hair and a sage-like demeanor. He gently stroked his white beard and his eyes were filled with joy. A flame essence was not an ordinary item. It was the crystallization of the origin of fire. Even if it was a 5th-grade flame essence, it was priceless. Not to mention that it was presented by the Fire Crow Crown Prince himself. It was most likely a 6th-grade flame essence. If a boundary emperor were to absorb it, it would be beneficial. My clan wishes Lord Quasi-Emperor Taiheng to ascend the 9 heavens and become a great emperor, Fire Crow respectfully said. Although Quasi-Emperor Taiheng knew that he had no hope of attaining the Tao, he was still full of smiles. In this era, who didn't want to reach the heavens in a single step and coincidentally obtain the recognition of the great Tao and attaining the emperor throne? "All right, nephew. Come sit beside me first. We'll chat later." Quasi-Emperor Taiheng was very satisfied with Fire Crow Crown Prince's attitude. He smiled and pointed to the table beside him. Those who could sit near Quasi-Emperor Taiheng's table were mostly divine martial experts. There were also a few fake emperors. With Fire Crow's cultivation, he was not qualified to sit there. However, since Quasi-Emperor Taiheng had personally spoken, the fake emperors had to give Fire Crow some face. Fire Crow's expression changed slightly as he secretly asked for instructions from Yi Qinghan. "Go and sit. We'll stand behind you," Yi Qinghan said indifferently. Fire Crow smiled bitterly and asked Yi Qinghan to stand behind him. He felt like he was sitting on pins and needles, but he had to do so at this time. Yi Qinghan led Nangong Powu and Ren Huangyi to follow Hoya. Hoya sat down next to a divine martial arts practitioner. Yi Qinghan and the others stood behind Hoya. Their gazes wandered as they searched for Zake, and Nangong Powu tapped his long spear with his fingertips. His eyes flashed brightly and he stood as straight as a javelin. Emperor Yi kept his eyes closed as his divine sense roamed the entire martial arts arena. He found that there were thousands of experts gathered here. Most of them were star lords of a star, and there were even a few clan leaders of thousands of races. "Master, there doesn't seem to be the target you're looking for here. There are very few virtuosos among the younger generation, and those who are passable are even rarer. They are definitely not the inheritors of the remnant martial arts." Emperor Yi secretly transmitted his voice. "It's okay. Let's wait a little longer. Not everyone should be here yet." Yi Qinghan saw that there was still a large number of experts rushing over, and kept congratulating Quasi-Emperor Taiheng. Yi Qinghan's lips curled in disdain. The human race was in a precarious situation, and there were murderous intents everywhere. Only a quasi-emperor like him would hide in a corner and enjoy himself instead of preparing for war. It would be difficult for a quasi-emperor like him to improve his cultivation, and he could only helplessly wait for the end of his life. Quasi-Emperor Taiheng and Emperor Shang were from the same era, and he was slightly older than Emperor Shang. There were only 700 to 800 years left before the end of his life. For a quasi-emperor, this amount of time was enough to count the days. More than half of the congratulatory time had passed, and those who should have arrived had arrived. However, there was still no sign of Zai King. Yi Qinghan shook his head slightly. Just then, Fire Crow suddenly transmitted a message. "Zai Kan's other follower is here." Before Fire Crow Crown Prince could finish speaking, a figure directly tore through the defenses outside Taiheng Palace and landed on the martial arts arena. Yi Qinghan looked at the newcomer. He was very young, at the 8th level of the Immortal Gate. and was of the human race. His battle strength was comparable to Zhang Ge, but he was only Zhe Can's follower. Yi Qinghan couldn't help but be surprised. How powerful was this Zhe Can? I am Zheng Hu, and I am here on the orders of my young master to deliver a congratulatory gift to Quasi-Emperor Taiheng. This is an absolute heaven pill. Please accept it. The newcomer was neither servile nor overbearing. He bowed slightly and presented a jade bottle. There was a transparent pill inside, and it slowly rose into the air and flew in front of Quasi-Emperor Taiheng. Quasi-Emperor Taiheng was overjoyed. He held the jade bottle, and his eyes were full of smiles. This absolute heaven pill was not an ordinary item, but a divine pill refined from the water of the absolute heaven sea. It could slow down the loss of vitality and extend one's life. It was the favorite treasure of those who had reached the end of their life. Help me thank your young master. If there is a need in the future, I will definitely return this favor. Quasi-Emperor Taiheng stood up for the first time. It was clear how precious this pill was, and how much he respected Zhe Can. My young master said that there is no need to wait for the future. I can return it today. Zheng Hu glanced at Fire Crow and Yi Qinghan, and a cold light pierced through everything. Yi Qinghan and Fire Crow trembled. They were shocked, and their consciousness controlled their powerful life-saving weapons. They were incomparably vigilant. Quasi-Emperor Taiheng was taken aback. He frowned and asked how. Kill the Fire Crow Crown Prince and Yi Qinghan behind him. Zheng Hu coldly glanced at Yi Qinghan, the corners of his mouth revealing a mocking smile as he disdainfully said, I have been on good terms with the Fire Crow clan for generations. It is too difficult for me to kill a junior. Moreover, today is my birthday. It is too inauspicious to see blood. Quasi-Emperor Taiheng said with a frown. Ha ha ha, Quasi-Emperor, I was just joking. There is no need for you to kill two juniors. I can kill them with one hand, but I hope that you will not interfere. Moreover, I will not do it at your banquet. What do you think? Zheng Hu laughed loudly and said arrogantly. Quasi-Emperor Taiheng was dissatisfied. As a quasi-emperor, when was it a junior's turn to make fun of him? Looking at Zheng Hu's arrogant appearance, he could not help but snort. Since you are so confident, then wait for my banquet to end. If you do me the honor, then sit down and eat with me. If not, then go out and wait. Zheng Hu sneered and said arrogantly, how would I dare not give you face? I will sit down and wait for the banquet to end. Fire Crow Crown Prince looked embarrassed. He looked at Zheng Hu and instantly turned his head away, unwilling to look directly at him. Yi Qinghan and Zheng Hu looked at each other, tit for tat. Killing intent radiated in all directions, attracting the attention of many people. As a follower of Fire Crow, even Fire Crow did not dare to look directly at Zheng Hu. How could a follower be so strong? Master, he is one of Zhe Can's strongest followers. He has been groomed by Zhe Can, and the secret technique he cultivates is at the peak of the 8th grade, the collapsing sword technique. He is invincible under the divine martial realm. He has only lost to Zhe Can in his entire life. He is cruel by nature and Zhe Can values him greatly. Fire Crow glanced at him with eyes full of jealousy. How could his gaze escape Yi Qinghan's divine sense? Yi Qinghan sneered and asked indifferently, how many moves can you withstand in front of him? Fire Crow Crown Prince's expression changed slightly and said awkwardly, 5 moves. Yi Qinghan clenched his iron fist and was secretly shocked. This Zheng Hu was so strong that he could defeat Fire Crow in just 5 moves. If he did not use the extreme Dao Emperor weapon, it would probably take him 7 to 8 moves to kill Fire Crow. It was almost impossible to use the extreme Dao Emperor weapon, unless he was facing a boundary emperor. Therefore, if he fought with Zheng Hu, he could only rely on the extreme Dao Emperor weapon. On the martial arts training ground, the crowd was discussing in low voices. Many people did not know Zheng Hu's background, and could not help but be shocked. This person was just from the immortal sect, and yet he was so disrespectful to Boundary Emperor Taiheng. Furthermore, Boundary Emperor Taiheng did not choose to kill him, and instead seemed to be angry. However, in such a border area, most people did not know Yi Qinghan. They had not even heard of him. His reputation was only well known in the imperial domain. What is the background of this Yi Qinghan and Zheng Hu? Most people were asking in low voices. Boundary Emperor Taiheng was also frowning. It was obvious that Fire Crow Crown Prince was not the master of the three people behind him. Yi Qinghan was the leader. This Yi Qinghan, this name is so familiar. Where have I heard it before? Boundary Emperor Taiheng thought to himself, but he could not remember who had mentioned this inconspicuous name. Chapter 308. The mountains and rivers were vast, and time and space were reversed. The flow of time and space suddenly accelerated, catching everyone off guard. Inside the Forbidden Land, the flow of time was faster than the outside world. The vitality of the dead spirits was quickly drained, gathering into a river and rushing towards the depths of the Iron Mountain. The dead spirits roared, trying to fight for the vitality, but even the Emperor-level dead spirits couldn't do so. Their vitality dissipated instantly. The Forbidden Land was in chaos, and Great Emperor Fusu was suddenly awakened. His majestic aura suppressed the space-time restriction, but it couldn't stop the loss of vitality. After tens of thousands of years, the universe has reversed, and the sky-devouring catastrophe has begun again. What is inside this mountain? Is it controlling the Forbidden Land? Is it forcing the dead spirits of the Forbidden Land to come out? Great Emperor Fusu's body was shining with golden light, and his time laws had reached perfection, but he still couldn't stop the loss of vitality. His face darkened, and his emperor robe fluttered. He stepped out of seclusion and looked up at the Iron Mountain, wanting to see through the shackles of the origin. Divine light shot out from the Iron Mountain, and the entire universe could see it clearly. Countless vitality gathered into a divine sword that wanted to tear the space-time apart and split the universe into two. Yi Qinghan, who was countless miles away, looked up at the giant sword. In his sea of consciousness, the Tianwu battle sword, Divine Martial Imperial Codex, and Heavenly Scroll of the Sea of the Tao all awakened on their own. They stood above the 9 heavens and stared at the Forbidden Land. In the Kuang sect, the Emperor's sword pierced through the clouds and turned into a divine dragon to protect the sect. The sword dragon moved faster and faster, and more of them appeared. They seemed to be illusory and unimportant, but in reality, they could break the sun, moon, mountains, and rivers and fight the heavens and the earth. They were omnipotent. The Imperial Dragon Sky Golden Dragon imprint was restless as it sensed danger. It rushed out of the body and gathered with the Emperor's sword to form an 8 trigrams formation, turning the Kuang sect into an iron bucket. The people of the Kuang sect were shocked. They rushed out of seclusion and looked up at the sky. The strange phenomenon of the Forbidden Land made the Boundary Emperor's hands and feet go cold. The human race is finished. The endless universe is finished. There is no emperor, but the Forbidden Land is using all its power. Who can stop it? Xia Qintian's body tensed up as he stared into the sky in despair. There's at least one great emperor in the Forbidden Grounds. Batsang Tian smiled bitterly inside. He hated that he was powerless in such a dangerous place. Qin Heng and Zhuo Xian, on the other hand, had lifeless expressions on their faces. Others might not know, but they knew that there was more than one great emperor in the Forbidden Grounds. The 9-star ancient killing god, Great Emperor Fusu, was still in the Forbidden Grounds. Once his life force was depleted, no one would be able to stop his desire for immortality. With Great Emperor Su Fu making a move, how could the human race be lucky? Ding! In the ancestral grounds of the Zhang clan, a divine spear hung upside down in the heavenly river, suspended in midair. Even the heavens and earth had become a foil to it. There was no one and nothing that could be compared to it. However, an extreme Tao Emperor weapon needed to be controlled by a great emperor in order to unleash its true power. An extreme Tao Emperor weapon, be it the human sovereign's sword or the battle sky spear, could not be compared with a real great emperor. They might be able to resist a great emperor if they joined forces. However, they would only be able to resist for a long time. Yi Qinghan had seen at least 4 great emperors in the Forbidden Grounds. However, that was only the tip of the iceberg. If all the great emperors were to attack, how many great emperor weapons would be needed to stop them? Greetings, ancestor. Zhang Yunxiao reached out and grabbed at the void. The battle sky spear broke through space and appeared in Zhang Yunxiao's hand. His battle-intent sword and shook the heavens and earth. It was as though a battle god had descended and could fight against the heavens and earth. Zhang Ge Yongzhan, retreat to the insane sect. Zhang Yunxiao roared into the sky. Greetings, battle division. Fight with me. Yes. A deep sigh rushed out from the ground. Countless terrifying battle intents surged out of the Zhang clan's Dao realm. All the experts had awakened. The battle division was the strongest foundation of the Zhang clan. With an army of 30,000, other than a great emperor, anyone could stop them. Ancient killing gods, listen to my orders. Everyone gather. We will all die in this battle. However, we swore that even if we die, we will not regret it. Although Qin Heng and Zuoxian were pessimistic, they had decided to fight to the death. Even if we die, we will not regret it. The Dao realm experts of the 9 great holy lands all used their foundation. Their subordinate forces were also mobilized. They all rushed to the edge of the eternal battlefield. They were prepared to stop the enemy at the eternal battlefield because that was the only way to enter the imperial domain from the forbidden grounds. 1,000,000 humans, 1,000,000 soldiers, an inch of land, an inch of blood. The 10,000 royal clans, the 10,000 saint monarchs, and the 10,000 imperial clans all moved out. Above the celestial sects, no one could escape their fate. They joined forces. They did not seek to attack, but to defend. As long as the ancestral lands were not broken, the human race would not perish. The ancestral teachings of the past were like this. Everything could be lost, but the ancestral lands could not be lost. The divine sword of the forbidden grounds seemed to be right in front of them. It tore at their hearts. The weak were directly frightened to death. All living beings wailed as they felt the arrival of a great calamity. The 100,000 ancient killing gods, their killing robes fluttered. The 30,000 soldiers could block 1,000,000 enemies. The 3,000 soldiers with special constitutions were now unafraid of death. They stood on the front line. Death, they had to die first. 300 quasi-emperors and 3,000 false emperors. This was the power of the entire endless universe. Of course, those hidden forces still did not move. They did not care about the life and death of the universe's creatures. As long as the forbidden grounds did not attack their ancestral lands, they would not interfere. The forbidden grounds had attacked the endless universe, but never attacked them. This was already an unwritten rule. School of Yin Yang, Divine Ghost Sect. It was as if they did not exist in this universe. What should we do? Within the insane sect, dozens of experts gathered. They were like headless flies. Xia Qiyue took a deep breath and gazed outside the insane sect. There seemed to be divine light and celestial qi, but in reality, death qi had already descended. Wait. Xia Qiyue understood what was going on with the Forbidden Grounds phenomenon. At this time, the quasi-emperors outside could die at any moment. The celestial sects, the ancient killing gods, the soldiers with special constitutions and bloodlines, none of them could come back alive. Brother, when did you become so timid? Father told us to stay in the insane sect. Are we just going to watch the mountains and rivers shatter and do nothing? Xia Ziluo's fighting spirit soared. Holding the Yellow Springs diagram, she wanted to rush out of the insane sect. Ziluo, they don't understand. Don't you understand? Going out at this time is no different from suicide. We can only wait for a chance of survival. Xia Qiyue rebuked angrily. I have an imperial weapon. The more power the human race has, the more hope we have for victory. Just as great Emperor Su Fu said, if the mountains and rivers are gone, what's the use of my remnant area? You said that father and the others are courting death. If they die and the ancestral lands are broken, do we expect the Emperor's sword to protect us? It can protect us for a while, but can it protect us for a lifetime? Xia Ziluo was strong. Her determination was not inferior to that of a man. Everyone was silent. Although Xia Ziluo was strong, what she said was true. If the mountains and rivers were gone and the ancestral lands were broken, the dead spirits would attack here sooner or later. Instead of hiding here and waiting to be killed, it was better to fight and dye the sky red. Is there really no hope for the human race? Zhang Ge was sorrowful. He punched through the spirit crystal. The disciples of the Zhan family had never retreated. He did not want to wait for death in the Kuang sect. Li Jiucheng was silent. He did not know how to face this situation. When Yi Qinghan left, he obviously did not expect such a situation to occur. The Forbidden Land had forced the dead spirits to attack. If they did not attack, their vitality would collapse. Everything they had sacrificed over the years would be in vain. Bastards, those vampires are so impatient. I will skin them alive sooner or later. The parrot cursed and glared at the Forbidden Land. Everyone was stunned and looked at the parrot. What do you mean? Who are those vampires? Xia Ziluo asked coldly. Not only did Xia Ziluo want to know, but everyone also wanted to know. The parrot replied angrily. What's the use of telling you? We can't even kill the dead spirits, let alone them. That's better than dying with grievances. Hurry up and tell me, who initiated this war? Xia Ziluo scolded angrily. When the parrot saw that everyone was angry, it trembled and murmured. It's those rotten people behind the Forbidden Land. They are called the Death Gods. Some of them are emperors of the human race. Some of them are emperors of all races. They are truly immortal. They have crossed countless eras. They are powerhouses who lived from the mythological era. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Who were these people? People who lived from the mythological era. Could actually live until now. They can't leave the back mountain, but they can control the flow of time in the Forbidden Land and draw the vitality of the powerhouses at the front of the Forbidden Land. Those dead spirits of the great emperors are just creatures that the death gods raised. They use their vitality to supplement their own vitality. That's why they can live until now. I've clearly warned those dead spirits, but they didn't believe me. They just don't listen. They deserve to be the pets of the death gods. The parrot cursed angrily. How do you know? Have you been to the back of the Forbidden Land? Everyone was shocked. This little bird's origins were a bit too terrifying. This divine bird also escaped from there. Unfortunately. The parrot stopped mid-sentence. No matter how others threatened it, it wasn't willing to say half a word. Half a day later, the strange phenomena in the Forbidden Land disappeared. The corpses of the dead spirits had dried up, their vitality gone. Even their souls were dispirited and listless. The great emperors were still fine, but they were all exhausted. Great Emperor Supwake's face was devoid of vitality. His vitality had dried up, and no matter how time reversed, he couldn't recover his lost vitality. Bastards! That group of greedy vampires have drained this great emperor's strength again. Wait until I break out of this seal. I'll be the first to kill them all. A great emperor dead spirit roared. He wasn't afraid of the people behind the Iron Mountain at all. I don't want to kill anymore. No matter how long I live, it's all for someone else. I've lived long enough. I can't accept this. I've lived for so long just to attain immortality. I've already reached the final step. How can I let go? The dead spirits of the Forbidden Land all rushed out, furious and unwilling. Some stared at the Iron Mountain angrily. Some revealed greedy gazes as they looked towards the endless universe. Great Emperor Supwake's face was ferocious, and his eyes showed signs of struggle. His time law profound had already reached the small completion stage. He was only half a step away from the large completion stage. Once he reached the large completion stage, his lifespan would be extended by tens of thousands of years. It wasn't impossible for him to reach the longevity position. But now, half of his vitality had been taken away by the Forbidden Land. How could he accept this? The Forbidden Land was a poison that people couldn't quit. Even great emperors couldn't resist its charm. Even though they knew that this was the path to the Demon Land, they couldn't resist the temptation of the Forbidden Land. Kill. This is the last time. If it still doesn't work, I'll self-destruct. A great emperor dead spirit roared. Chapter 309. The moment the emperor's undead spirit said that, the other undead spirits glowed with killing intent. Calm down, the human race doesn't have any emperors now. Just based on the life force of those quasi-emperors, they're all at the end of their lifespans. How much life force can they share with us? I'm afraid it won't even be enough. The golden era has just begun. The young generation is at most in the immortal martial realm. They haven't even broken through to the divine martial realm. Killing them now would be too much of a waste. Why don't we let some pseudo-emperors go into the endless universe to kill them, to pressure them and let them grow faster? 100 years later, we'll make our move. By then, the true invincible kings of the young generation would have entered the divine martial realm, or even become pseudo-emperors. Their life force would be the best nourishment for us. Great Emperor Fusu, you can't resist the temptation? Or are you trying to buy time for the human race? One of the emperor's undead spirits sneered. Many dead spirits stood in all directions of the Forbidden Land, staring at the 4 extreme monarch-level masters in the Forbidden Land of the dead spirits. The decisions of the 4 of them could almost control the entire Forbidden Land. Great Emperor Fusu's robes fluttered, his black hair turned white, and he aged 10,000 years. His majesty was gone. Those behind the mountain, didn't they also treat us like lambs to be slaughtered? Have you ever seen them go crazy and directly devour your life force? This kind of slaughter gave you a chance to live, making you unwilling to give up. That's why they're still alive today. If you kill the human race all at once, we won't be able to live, and those behind the mountain won't be able to live either. Do you think they'll leave us with a chance to live? Great Emperor Fusu asked coldly. Dao friend, you're right. Even if we kill everyone in the endless universe, it won't make up for our losses. What's important is the rising elites in the golden era. Their life force is boundless, and they're what we really need. The undead emperors nodded. Seeing that the 3 emperors had chosen to compromise, Great Emperor Fusu let out a sigh of relief and muttered to himself. The human race that raised me. I hope that a new emperor will be born in these 100 years. This is all I can help you with. Great Emperor Fusu didn't choose to betray them. His will was terrifying. Who's leading the team this time? There are many pseudo-emperors in the eternal battlefield. Rather than letting them die, they might as well give their last bit of life force to us. Great Emperor Hun Dun, the oldest undead emperor, licked his lips, and was about to make a move. Great Monarch Fusu clenched his fists tightly before loosening them in the end. Helping the humans at this time was the same as pushing them into a dead end. 3 undead emperors and thousands of undead would rush out of the forbidden grounds like a swarm of bees. Even if the humans had a new undead emperor, they wouldn't be able to stop them. Great Emperor Fusu. Greats, S's Great Emperor Fusu's. Great Emperor. S. The other 2 undead spirits of the great emperors did not speak. The primal Chaos Emperor laughed evilly and said eerily, Let me do it then. I will destroy another 2 extreme Dao Emperor weapons. Let's see what the endless universe can use to stop the forbidden grounds. An extreme Great Emperors appeared in Great Emperor Hun Dun's hand. Chaos poured out, and the cold sword turned into chaos. It poured down, wanting to drown the universe. The 30 of you follow me. Don't kill the young elites of the human race. We'll kill them after they're fattened up. The chaotic emperor pierced through the seal left by the divine martial emperor with his sword. Lightning and other powerful dead spirits rushed out of the seal, full of murderous intent. Gue Chenzi, on the other hand, looked gloomy. He did not want to fight anymore, and was ready to die. You guys follow me too. Great Emperor Hun Dun was indifferent. He stepped out of the Forbidden Land. The terrifying time and order had destroyed a large amount of life force. Even Great Emperor Hun Dun's combat strength had decreased by 10 times. Otherwise, if they were at their peak, there wouldn't be any life in the universe. Whoosh! An undead spirit whose life force had almost dissipated was destroyed by the order of the Great Tao, dying tragically on the spot. However, such a horrifying scene couldn't scare off the other undead spirits. More than 30 undead spirits followed Great Emperor Hun Dun into the universe. The first to bear the brunt was a group of territories of the myriad races. The powerful undead spirits instantly surrounded a star, and crazily devoured the life force of all living beings to replenish their blood. Suddenly, blood flowed like a river. It was like hell. The ancient trees were withering. Even the mighty figures of the divine martial realm had become cannon fodder. They didn't even have the chance to struggle before they were devoured by Great Emperor Hun Dun. They were nourishing themselves with battle. Their strength was recovering rapidly. Even if they recovered only 10%, it would be a disaster for the universe. The wailing of all living beings spread across the entire star region. Great Emperor Hun Dun and the other undead spirits were advancing rapidly. In the west of the eternal battlefield, there were at least dozens of star regions. There were humans and myriad races here, but they were all abandoned by the rulers of the universe. It wasn't that they couldn't defend, but that they couldn't. Heaven and earth were mourning. With so many undead spirits, they could devour a star with life in an instant. The living beings could only cry and cry, begging for the great emperor to appear. Unfortunately, there were no great emperors in the universe now. Perhaps the heavens had a spirit. A terrifying aura rushed over from the territory of the myriad races. The aura of death overflowed into the sky, and the might of the great emperor was vast and mighty. Great Emperor Hun Dun was stunned. He stared at the sky and saw a figure coming over on a golden light. He frowned and asked in confusion, "There are great emperors in the myriad races?" There was a fundamental difference between a true great emperor and a true great emperor. If the myriad races really had a peak great emperor, these undead spirits would be nothing but side dishes. Even Great Emperor Hun Dun wouldn't be able to escape. Great Emperor Hun Dun's battle strength had decreased too much. It was Great Emperor Pangolin. Unfortunately, his battle strength had decreased even more. His soul was old, and he was past his prime. At this moment he didn't want to hide. He only wanted to die in battle. He hoped to take away some undead spirits and throw out the last great emperor blood for the universe. Boom! An emperor sword pierced through the sky, killing several great emperor realm undead spirits. Then it directly pounced on Great Emperor Hun Dun. No one below the Great Emperor level could block this sword. However, Great Emperor Hun Dun was extremely excited. He shouted, "The heavens didn't kill me. There's actually such a good thing waiting for me." Great Emperor Pangolin's soul battle strength was less than 10%, so he couldn't control the Great Emperor corpse. However, the Great Emperor corpse was eternal. Even if it died, heaven and earth wouldn't be destroyed. If Great Emperor Hun Dun obtained the Great Emperor corpse, his battle strength could be restored to 60% or even 70% of his peak. Boom! Great Emperor Hun Dun commanded the sky. Chaos poured down, drowning half of the star field. His sword pierced through heaven and earth, destroying stars. In the blink of an eye, he was fighting with Great Emperor Pangolin. The Death Spirit Quasi-Emperors all fled, distancing themselves from the battlefield. They watched as a star domain was instantly shattered by the might of the Great Emperors. The battle between the two crippled Great Emperors was incomparably terrifying. Stars were shattered, completely disintegrated into dust. Flames burned the sky, and in an instant, the blood of the Great Emperors rained down. Roar! Great Emperor Pangolin only wanted to take away this Great Emperor realm undead spirit. He didn't want to dodge at all. He attacked crazily, trading life for life. In an instant, the two incomplete Great Emperors were injured. The Great Emperor blood alarmed the Great Emperors countless miles away. "There's a Great Emperor. It's the Great Emperor of the myriad races. Why didn't I know?" Great Emperor Azure Dragon was shocked. He stared across space and time, but unfortunately he couldn't see. He could only feel two terrifying auras entangled in the west of the eternal battlefield. "Shall we go all out and charge over?" Zhang Yunxiao held the sky battle spear and asked in a deep voice. "Wait. It's impossible for the myriad races to have a great emperor. Just in case," the great emperor of the Qilin tiger race said without hesitation. No one knew that the great emperor corpse in the ancient space had been released by Yi Qinghan. Great Emperor Pangolin didn't die completely. He only relied on a strand of his will to persist until now. He could only stop Great Emperor Hun Dun's footsteps, but he couldn't kill him. He couldn't even kill the other Great Emperor realm undead spirits. In the far west, Great Emperor Pangolin would rather die than fight. He fought against heaven and earth. Even death couldn't stop him from erupting with the might of a great emperor. "Dead spirits. You would rather become lambs. But the myriad races will not be your food." Great Emperor Pangolin roared angrily. The Great Emperor's sword shattered, and blood stained the sky. The entire starfield was beaten into nothingness. His aura became weaker and weaker, and it seemed like he couldn't hold on any longer. "Think. Heaven has given me a treasure. The endless universe still has a great emperor expert like you. It's a pity that you're past your prime and you're heavily injured. The great emperor corpse belongs to me. No one can take it away from me. Great Emperor Hun Dun laughed cruelly. He could tell that Great Emperor Pangolin was an arrow at the end of its flight. He didn't want to hurt the Great Emperor corpse, so he continued to pester and grind away at Great Emperor Pangolin's will and soul. Even if I die, I still have to fight. How can my corpse bring disaster to the endless universe? Great Emperor Pangolin waved his hand, shattering the myriad laws. He roared in a deep voice, "Ignite my Great Emperor body, help me change the heavens and defy fate. Kill." Boom. Heaven and earth roared, and the great Tao roared. Snow fell from the sky and roared for thousands of miles. The entire endless universe was wailing and mourning. The fall of a great emperor was irreversible. Heaven and earth were filled with sorrowful chi and blood. The great emperor realm in the east of the eternal battlefield roared in anger and grief. It's indeed the great emperor of the myriad races. He's fallen. Great Emperor Azure Dragon's face was covered in tears. Everyone was silent, including the great emperors of the human race. They all knelt down. No matter which race the great emperor was from, when facing the dead spirit's forbidden land, they were all supreme. Great Emperor Pangolin unleashed the might of a great emperor. He would rather die than submit. He ignited his great emperor body and erupted with a terrifying attack. His fist shattered the great Tao, and the friction created a monstrous flame. It was as if nothing could stop him. Hua! The flaming iron fist shattered the aura of primal chaos. The great primal chaos sword was distorted and almost broke. The great Emperor Primal Chaos was shocked and hurriedly retreated. He sped for thousands of miles, but he was still heavily injured by Great Emperor Pangolin. His blood dyed the starry river, and the aftermath shattered the corporeal bodies and souls of more than 10 dead spirits who didn't manage to escape in time. The great Emperor Primal Chaos coughed up blood and flew backward. He roared furiously. This time, before he could replenish his vitality, he encountered a great emperor of the myriad races who should have died 10,000 years ago. This caused his vitality to dissipate by more than half, and his battle prowess dropped by more than 10 times. Of the 35 dead spirits' boundary emperors, 15 of them were vaporized by the great emperor's might. The remaining 20 dead spirits' boundary emperors looked at the burning great emperor Pangolin in horror. They kept coughing up blood, and their Tao hearts were almost shattered. The difference between a great emperor and a great emperor was too great. Even if they had lived for tens of thousands of years and relied on the forbidden land to cultivate, their battle prowess was more terrifying than the great emperors of the human race and the myriad races. However, in the face of a true great emperor, it was simply a joke. The great emperor Pangolin's body quickly finished burning. A great emperor died without a complete corpse. Not even a trace was left behind. The world didn't even know who he was, but he had no regrets. Damn bastard. He would rather ignite his corporeal body and sink into eternal oblivion than let this great emperor take advantage of him. The great Emperor Primal Chaos's eyes revealed a ferocious light. He roared, "Myriad races, I will make you regret this. Kill for me. Kill your way through the Aeon battlefield, and devour the vitality of those dead spirits' boundary emperors. This time, I want to kill all the experts above the divine martial realm in the endless universe." Under the great Emperor Primal Chaos's command, the 20 dead spirits' boundary emperors mercilessly charged into the Aeon battlefield. Everywhere they passed, there was a land of death without any vitality. Chapter 310. The battle in the far west was earth-shattering. Great emperors were stained with blood, and their corpses burned. Countless creatures were killed and the dead spirits were in a frenzy. In the far southeast, Yi Qinghan's eyes twitched. Although he could not see the scene there, he knew that the dead spirits were on the move. After the banquet ended, Yi Qinghan led the 4 out of Taihing residents. He said hoarsely, "We don't have enough time. Son, let's work together and push forward." Whoosh. Ren Huangyi didn't say anything else. He tapped the air with the tip of his foot and stood on Yi Qinghan's left shoulder. With the divine Guqin in his arms, even without opening his eyes, he could still control everything that his divine consciousness could reach. Many people were curious and followed them. Zheng Hu stood outside Taiheng City. The sword in his hand trembled slightly, causing the space to ripple. Whoosh! Zheng Hu did not say anything when he saw them out of the city. He swept his sword across the void, forming 10,000 swords that pierced through the clouds. With a tremble of his finger, the 10,000 swords shattered and turned into countless tiny swords that surrounded the four. Clearly he was ready to kill them all in one strike. Kill! Yi Qinghan snorted coldly. His aura burst forth, and true essence poured out of his entire body. His gold origin Dao physique burst forth, illuminating the mountains and rivers. He raised his hand slightly and shouted in a low voice. Emperor descends from the heavens, suppress. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Yi Qinghan forcefully summoned the might of heaven and earth and gathered the power of an emperor to descend. The phantom behind him raised its hand, and its aura overpowered the heavens as if it wanted to suppress everything within 10,000 miles. The giant hand that covered the sky shattered everything, including countless tiny swords, and smashed them toward Zheng Hu's body. Everyone gasped, and their pupils constricted. The immortal Gate Realm cultivators were forced to their knees by Yi Qinghan's aura. The divine martial experts fled frantically, not daring to face Yi Qinghan, who was like an emperor. What kind of secret technique is this? Many people did not know about the Divine Ghost Sect, or the Six Disasters Azure Dragon's special skill. However, they could see that this move was terrifying. It was like a true emperor descending with the heavens, crushing the great Tao of time and space. No one could escape its suppression. Crack crack crack, space collapsed and pressed down on Zheng Hu. The ground beneath Zheng Hu's feet cracked and collapsed continuously. Zheng Hu raised his sword to block. His eyes were filled with shock. His legs were trembling. He wanted to leave, but his legs were as heavy as lead. It was difficult for him to move. Sky-severing hand. Emperor Yi suddenly plucked the 9 strings, and a terrifying aura erupted from the divine Guqin. The strings tore through the void, shaking the Taiheng primary star. The rhythm converged into a huge hand that blotted out the sky. It slashed across the sky, shattering the firmament. It ignored space and arrived before Zheng Hu in the blink of an eye. Zheng Hu was shocked and roared. Damn it, are you bullying me with numbers? Groan. Zheng Hu raised his sword to block the heaven-severing hand, but the divine weapon was instantly severed. Whoosh, Zheng Hu was cleaved in half at the waist. Blood splattered everywhere as a large amount of his vitality was suppressed on the spot. Just as his soul was about to escape, Yi Qinghan's attack traversed space-time and suppressed his physical body. A bottomless abyss appeared several hundred meters around Zheng, who as a destructive aura erupted from the abyss. Some experts at the perfect stage of the divine martial realm narrowed their eyes as they felt their palms turn cold. Zheng Hu's strength was known to everyone in the nearby starfield. He was comparable to the early stage of the divine martial realm. Moreover, he was at the peak of his strength. However, he couldn't block the combined attack of Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi, and was suppressed directly. One move. Fire Crow Crown Prince Huoyan shuddered as he looked at Emperor Yi standing on Yi Qinghan's shoulder. His white robe fluttered behind him. He originally thought that she was just a weak child. He didn't expect her to kill Zheng Hu in one move. How terrifying was her combat strength. Let's go. Yi Qinghan summoned the god-slaying eagle and swept everyone up. He soared into the sky and left the Taiheng starfield. Yi Qinghan didn't want to waste any more time. He killed 2 of Zhakan's experts and subdued one of them. Then he set off from the Taiheng main star and swept his way through. He killed 9 experts in a row and dyed the sky red. In the Qinling Mountains, Jian Shui received the news. She took a deep breath and her eyes blurred. She didn't know what to do. I really didn't betray you. I know you won't forgive me, but I can't do anything. I can't resist at all. Jian Shui murmured as she walked towards the back of the mountain. Zaken was cultivating hard in the back of the mountain. He stared at the ultimate sky sea. He could split the ultimate sky sea in half with one sword. Where is he? Zaken sensed Jian Shui's arrival and asked indifferently. Middle ring star. There are only 4 of your followers left. Jian Shui sneered. 4? What a bunch of trash. Zaken was calm and didn't feel sorry at all. Were they all killed by Yi Qinghan alone? Zaken thought for a moment and asked with raised eyebrows. No, he teamed up with a little girl called Emperor Yi. He is her disciple. Jian Shui replied. Oh, it's that zither immortal crimson demon physique. Zhe Qian's eyes flashed. He revealed an evil smile and said eerily, Xiao Shui, you seem to have fallen in love with the wrong person. He died in his previous life. The one who is alive now is not the Yi Qinghan of the past. In his heart, you are not the one he loves the most but the one he hates the most. In his eyes, there is only Emperor Yi. Are you still so stubborn? That's his business. He is loyal to his feelings. Emperor Yi is only his disciple. You don't have to say any more. Jian Shui replied softly. Pitiful worm. Only the weak have feelings. I originally wanted to cultivate you into an outstanding empress. Unfortunately, you have disappointed me. Zhe Qian's eyes revealed a hint of horror as he said coldly. I'm a pitiful worm? Indeed, I'm a pitiful worm. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been raised by my master until I was 18, and sent to Owl War Star by you to be someone else's woman. When I was wholeheartedly devoted to you, it was you who pushed me into the abyss. What's the use of saying all this now? When I fell in love with him, you wiped out Owl War Star. My pity was forcefully bestowed upon me by you. Jian Shui was furious. For the first time, she raised her head and glared at Zhe Qian. That's because you are a weakling. Zhe Qian said disdainfully. Haha. Yes, I am a weakling, a pitiful worm. But aren't you a pitiful worm too? What can you do after cultivating here for a few hundred years? Without feelings, without self, you are just a joke. Jian Shui mocked. Zhe Qian was silent. He clenched his fist and strangled Jian Shui's neck. He said eerily, Xiao Shui, don't think that I can't bear to kill you. Go ahead. As long as you don't make things difficult for my family. Jian Shui replied without hesitation. Trash. Are those family members who abandoned you still your family members? For them, you are willing to do anything. Now for him, you are actually betraying me. Zhe Qian revealed his emotions for the first time. Perhaps he also had feelings. That's because you don't know how to cherish me. When I loved you, you threw me out like an object. Now you are saying that I betrayed you. Why don't you ask what you have done to me all these years? Jian Shui roared. She closed in on Zhe Qian and said coldly, Don't you want to kill me? Then kill me. Zhe Qian's hand trembled. He slowly released his iron grip. His eyes flashed with a touch of gentleness. He said softly, Who said that I have no feelings? You grew up with me, cultivated with me, and listened to me. How can I have no feelings for you? If it was someone else, I would have already thrown him into the ultimate heaven sea and made him immortal. But you I don't want to kill. Jian Shui collapsed. She squatted on the ground and covered her face. She couldn't accept such an outcome. What do you want from me? You want to torture me to death? I will fulfill your wish right now. Jian Shui suddenly charged towards the ultimate heaven sea. She was ready to die, no longer willing to be a puppet. Swish. Zhe Qian grabbed the air. His big hand controlled Jian Shui's body that was falling rapidly. He suddenly pulled Jian Shui back into his arms. He looked down at Jian Shui's tear-filled face and said with a hoarse voice, You want to die? It's not that easy. My martial Dao is far superior to Yi Qinghan. I won't lose to him in other aspects. He can make you betray me and fall in love with him. I can also make you betray him and fall in love with me. Impossible. Jian Shui replied firmly. Is that so? Zhe Qian smiled evilly. His charming face was irresistible. He held Jian Shui's face with both hands and wiped away her tears. He said softly, Little Shui, I know that you still have feelings for me. Otherwise you would have committed suicide long ago. Come back to my side. Wait until I completely destroy the Divine Martial Imperial Codex and eliminate the Divine Martial Inheritor. I will change for you and become a person with feelings. I will come out to fight and help the human race. How about that? His hoarse voice was filled with charm. It affected one's soul. Jian Shui was no exception. Jian Shui completely collapsed. Her defense was slowly being broken down. Her eyes were blurred and she didn't know what to do. He hates you. Why are you torturing yourself for him? You didn't betray him, but he doesn't know that the only one who truly understands you is me. Only I, who grew up with you, can understand. Zaken was furious. He growled, "Don't be stubborn. He will kill you the moment he sees you. If you explain and he believes you, I will jump into the ultimate heaven sea. I guarantee that I won't say a word." Jian Shue's body tensed up. She was awakened by Zakan's shock. She frantically broke free from Zakan's restraints and left the back of the mountain. Zakan sneered and growled, "Yi Qinghan, divine martial inheritor. Fighting with you is really interesting and challenging. I like it. I just don't know how long you can play with me." Yi Qinghan swept through everything in his path. He attacked crazily and joined forces with Emperor Yi. One was ferocious and the other was unstoppable. There was no need for defense. No one in the immortal realm could withstand a single move. They killed their way from Zhonghuan planet to Qinghan Mountain Star region. The star region was lifeless. Endless dark clouds covered time and space. Many dead stars were flying in orbits. There were tall mountains on them that reached into the clouds. However, there was no life. Everything was gray. The god-slaying eagle spread its wings and searched for planet Qinling. The Qinling mountain range was like a divine dragon from the 9 heavens. It occupied planet Qinling. The ultimate heaven sea roared and slammed on the mountain range. Everywhere it passed, everything was petrified. Yi Qinghan looked from afar. He found that this place was full of dangerous places. The heaven and earth array could kill divine martial experts and even fake emperors. Many dead stars could directly devour powerful warriors. No one could escape from their restraints. Fire Crow Crown Prince had never been here before. He didn't know where planet Qinling was. He could only search slowly. After searching for half a day, Yi Qinghan finally found a lush, everlasting forest. Countless mountain ranges converged to form a dragon-like mountain range that extended up and down, towering into the clouds. This was the famous Qinling mountain range of the endless universe. "Let's go down." Yi Qinghan put away the god-slaying eagle. Emperor Yi flew back to Yi Qinghan's shoulder. They were ready to join forces and quickly kill Zakan. Chapter 311. In the sky above planet Qinling, dark clouds gathered and a storm was approaching. The pressure was so strong that it felt like the sky was about to collapse. Jian Shui looked at the Milky Way and the star that she hadn't seen for a long time. The fairy-like lady on his shoulder tapped the air with her toes. They were a perfect match. Jian Shui felt like her heart was being cut by a knife. Jian Shui stood up and walked towards the ultimate heaven sea. Her white clothes fluttered like snow. She stood on the cliff and stared at the seawater splashing on the shore. With her back facing the world, she waited for Yi Qinghan's arrival. Yi Qinghan's speed was very fast. Nangong Powu was left behind. The fire crow turned into a mark engraved on his arm. In the blink of an eye, he crossed the mountain range and landed outside the palace. Rustle, rustle, rustle. Stepping on the snow, there was a crisp sound. Yi Qinghan looked at the stone tablet Kanwu standing at the door. His breathing was a little hurried. At this moment, he suddenly didn't want to investigate anymore. He was afraid of the feeling of betrayal. He was afraid that the person closest to him in his previous life would betray him. If Jian Shui was really here and betrayed him, would he kill her? What could he do? Emperor Ye's divine senses swept across the void and found Jian Shui's figure. He didn't find Zakan's aura. He couldn't help but sigh. "Master, she is here. If you can't bear to kill her, why don't you let me handle it?" Yi Qinghan was sure that Jian Shui was the traitor. Otherwise, why would she follow Zakan? "I will do it myself." Yi Qinghan clenched his fist and stepped towards the palace. There was no one else in the palace. There weren't even any guards. There was only one path leading to the back of the mountain. Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi quickly arrived at the back of the mountain. They found Zakan standing on another cliff. His clothes were fluttering and his aura was imposing. Jian Shui turned around and saw Yi Qinghan's cold eyes filled with killing intent. Her heart felt like it was being squeezed. It was so painful that she couldn't breathe. Yi Qinghan stepped on the rock. Every step was like stepping on Jian Shui's heart. It made her blood boil. She couldn't help but take a step back and almost fell off the cliff. "Why?" Yi Qinghan's voice was hoarse and his eyes were filled with anger. He never thought that Jian Shui, who had been following him since she was a teenager, would actually know the inheritor of the savage martial arts. Moreover, they knew each other even earlier. She had a motive for approaching him. Yi Qinghan kept closing in on the cliff, closing in on Jian Shui. His saber light shattered the laws, and his killing intent soared to the heavens. Emperor Yi opened his eyes and looked at Chang Can. He realized that his consciousness could not find him at all. The light of destruction shot out, but when it was less than a foot away from him, the space around him fluctuated continuously. It blocked the great path of destruction and emitted 10-colored divine light. Zhikan's mastery of the space precepts had already reached great success. Facing a god martial artist, he was unbeatable. Jian Shui murmured. She wanted to explain, but no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't say anything. At this moment, any explanation would be useless. Jian Shui hesitated. She wanted to stop Yi Qinghan from approaching the cliff, but when she saw Yi Qinghan's eyes that were filled with killing intent and his mocking smile, she couldn't help herself. Speak. Yi Qinghan's will soared to the heavens and forcefully ordered Jian Shui to explain. In his heart, he was still imagining that this woman hadn't betrayed him. If I didn't betray Xiao War Star, would you believe me? Jian Shui gathered her courage and looked at Yi Qinghan. She asked softly. Is that so? Then who was it that made Nangong Powu leave the 8 trigrams array's core? How are you acquainted with Zhikan? Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. At this moment, the evidence was irrefutable. How could he believe Jian Shui? I can't explain. Don't come any closer. Jian Shui replied helplessly. Can't explain? Why can't you explain? Because you made Powu leave the 8 trigrams array. The Grand Astral Array was destroyed. I just don't understand. How are you acquainted with Zhikan? How did you meet? Yi Qinghan was furious. The humiliation of being betrayed by his wife made him lose all reason. His sun-like eyes were filled with hatred and humiliation. Yi Qinghan's killing intent had reached its peak. Stop right there. I can explain it to you. Jian Shui was distressed. At this moment, she was unwilling to betray Yi Qinghan. She said hoarsely, that day, I met Yi Kuan. He told me that you were looking for Powu. After he finished speaking, he left the Yi family. I thought he was a playboy who was anxious to go out and play. That's why he asked me to inform Powu. I went to inform Powu. I didn't know it would turn out like this. Jian Shui's tears flowed down. She looked pitiful. Zhikan was even angrier. If Jian Shui had listened to him, he might not have hated Yi Qinghan so much. However, the more Jian Shui sacrificed for Yi Qinghan, the angrier he became. That possessiveness came from the bottom of his heart. At this moment, he finally understood how important Jian Shui was to him. Yi Qinghan could not believe this explanation. Jian Shui and Zhikan knew each other. This was an unchangeable fact. Young Master Zhikan and I grew up together. He was the one who sent me to Owl War Star. He said that his old enemy was there. I did not betray you. Only you have ever possessed my body. Ever since I met you, my soul belongs only to you. I did not betray you. I know you don't believe me. However, I am willing to die to prove my sincerity. I am not willing to betray you. Jian Shui suddenly fell backwards into the ultimate heaven sea. She was immediately swallowed by the sea and swept away. It happened so fast that Zhikan could not react in time. Yi Qinghan was stunned. He stood there in a daze. Emperor Yi was also stunned. He had never imagined that things would end up like this. No. Little Shui. Zhikan's sword split open the ultimate heaven sea. He stirred up the seawater, wanting to fish Jian Shui out of the sea. The ultimate heaven sea turned into a heavenly dragon that roared. It swept up the waves. The stone men underground were constantly swept out. They were all powerful existences. The moment they touched the seawater, they were immediately petrified. Even quasi-emperors could not escape the confinement of the ultimate heaven sea. 1 corpse, 2 corpses. No one knew how many experts were buried at the bottom of the sea. Zhikan roared angrily. He unleashed his full battle strength. In an instant, hundreds of sparkling and translucent stone man corpses were brought out. Xiao, one of the stone men, looked exactly like Jian Shui. Unfortunately, its body was completely petrified. It lay flat in the void. Even its hair was frozen. Yi Qinghan burst into tears of blood. He did not expect that the woman he hated the most for more than a month was actually the person who loved him the most. In order to not be misunderstood, he used his death to prove his love. Jikin took the stone man. His face was filled with killing intent. He stared at Yi Qinghan and grinned coldly. Go down and be buried with her. Kacha. Yi Qinghan was burning with anger. His entire body was covered in flames. He grabbed at the void and grabbed at Jian Shue's stone statue. However, how could Jikin allow him to snatch Jian Shui away? He struck out with his palm. Time and space intertwined. Yi Qinghan's attack sank like a stone into the sea. You are not worthy of her. You are a complete idiot. You can't even find the person who betrayed you, but you forced little Shui to her death. You can go and die too. Boom. A sword pierced through time and space. It seemed like it could split the enemy's soul. It directly descended upon Yi Qinghan's throat. It was so fast that no one could react. Yi Qinghan instantly disintegrated himself. The sword aura pierced through Yi Qinghan's body and killed its way into the Qinling Mountains. Boom. Yi Qinghan condensed his golden body and drew his saber. He gathered all the strength in his body and mobilized the momentum of heaven and earth. He slashed through time and space and attacked Jikin Wang. Emperor Yi played the 9 strings. The music was magnificent. He mobilized Yi Qinghan's qi and blood to suppress Jikan's combat strength. The two of them combined to attack and defend. It was enough to kill most 9th stage immortal sections. Even divine martial experts were no match for them. Qin transformation. Emperor Ye's figure was transparent. She tapped her left shoulder with the tip of her foot. No matter how Yi Qinghan moved, she was as steady as Mount Tai. It was as if the two of them were one. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. 9 stars chasing moon explosion technique. 9 arrows shot out at almost the same time. They broke through the void and attacked Jikan. A firefly dares to compete with the bright moon. Jikan's murderous intent surged. His entire body transformed into a sharp sword. His speed was incomprehensible. He was more than 10 times faster than his previous sword. In the blink of an eye, he pierced through Emperor Ye's 9 arrows. The time it took him to do so was less than the blink of an eye. Trash will always be trash. How can you be on par with the path of the savage martial artist? You are the last divine martial inheritor. Jikan joined his palms together. He gathered his qi into a blade and slashed at Yi Qinghan's violent saber. Boom. The violent saber and the true essence blade collided. Thousands of waves rolled up and fell from the sky, pouncing on the 3 of them. Thud thud thud. Yi Qinghan kept retreating. His metal Dao physique almost shattered. The difference was too great. Their combat strength might be similar in the same realm, but Jikan's realm was too high. He was already at the 9th stage of perfection. He could defeat anyone below the divine martial realm. Boom. The azure dragon body erupted. Dragon blood boiled and instantly healed his injured body. Astral energy shot out and enveloped Emperor Yi. The law of space caused the space to fluctuate, isolating the extreme sky seawater outside. Jikan's will cause the seawater to change direction. It didn't affect him at all. At this moment, he looked at Yi Qinghan with disdain and said coldly, "Are you going to jump into the extreme sky sea yourself, or do you want me to beat you into it?" Jikan, since you claim to be invincible in the same realm, why didn't you openly seek me out more than 10 years ago? Why did you use a scheme to kill all the living beings on Alwar Star? Yi Qinghan's body was covered in golden scales. He blocked the violent saber with both hands and roared angrily. You think too highly of yourself. Why would I need to kill you personally? Why would I need a scheme? What does the destruction of Alwar Star have to do with me? Jikan replied coldly. Then why did you send Shui heir to Alwar Star? You were the one who killed her. Yi Qinghan was burning with anger. He took a deep breath and used the momentum to raise his saber. Half the sky was under his control. Did I kill her, or did your distrust kill her? Don't tell me you don't understand. Or are you pretending not to know and comforting yourself? Jikan roared. The golden dragon sword in his hand tore through the void, ready to slash the enemy's soul at any time. Yi Qinghan's breath stagnated. He muttered, I really killed her. Master, don't listen to his nonsense. He's messing with your Dao heart. Emperor Yi plucked the zither strings. The sound of nature suddenly rang out. He directly mobilized the extreme sky seawater and condensed it into a dragon. It raised its head slightly, wanting to charge out of the extreme sky sea and kill Jacquin. Then tell me, who's the real mastermind behind this? Yi Qinghan was unwilling. He didn't believe that Yi Kun had the ability to betray Owl War Star. There must be someone behind this. You won't have the chance to know. Die with regret and confusion. Xiao xiao xiao, Jacquin sneered in disdain. He clapped his palms together and mobilized his true essence again. It condensed into a terrifying giant saber. His divine sense moved and turned into countless small sabers. They cut through space and attacked Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi. He wanted to force Yi Qinghan to the cliff. Chapter 312. On the highest peak of the Qinling Mountains, a young man stood proudly, overlooking the battlefield on the shore of the absolute sky sea. Nangong Powu, holding a golden spear, stood upright like a pine tree. His strength far exceeded that of an ordinary prince, but in front of Yi Qinghan, his performance was very ordinary. At this moment, behind the atrocious martial hall, no matter how powerful the three were, they could not destroy the rocks on the ground. The rocks here had been soaked in the absolute sky sea and were as hard as divine weapons. Jacquin's battle strength was overwhelming, just like when the great emperor was young. The golden dragon sword transformed into tens of thousands of swords and converged with true essence blades, forcing Yi Qinghan to retreat to the cliff. Yi Qinghan felt that something was wrong. Jacquin could completely suppress him with his cultivation level and even kill him, but Jacquin only forced him to retreat. He suddenly remembered that Jian Shui had warned him not to get close to her before she died. Could there be something wrong with the cliff? Boom. Yi Qinghan fully unleashed his battle strength. Scales protected his entire body, and he erupted violently, shattering the void. The world was filled with saber light and sword shadows. Dragon blood boiled, and Yi Qinghan almost turned into a dragon. His aura soared to the sky. Hum hum hum. Emperor Yi transformed into a zither. With Yi Qinghan under her, she did not need to defend. She mobilized all the true essence in her body, and sucked out all the spiritual energy within 1,000 miles. Even Yi Qinghan's strength was forcibly drawn out by her. Her 5 fingers grabbed the 9 zither strings, and pulled them into a half-moon shape like a bow. Boom! Hua! True essence was strengthened by the divine zither, and expanded by hundreds of times, forming a giant hand that covered the sky. It slashed through mountains and rivers, causing the world to collapse. Sky-severing hand. With a crisp shout, Emperor Ye's small hand slashed through the air. The giant hand that covered the sky instantly arrived in front of Jacquin. All the restrictions were destroyed easily, causing Jacquin to be shocked. Humph! Jacquin snorted. He had the potential to prove his Tao, and was at the 9th stage of the Immortal Gate. How could he lose to 2 people at the 2nd stage of the Immortal Gate? The atrocious martial Tao. Heaven and earth are broken, and all techniques have flaws. Your attacks are just a joke in front of me. Kill. Jacquin transformed into a sharp sword and pierced through the rainbow, trying to penetrate the gap between the giant hand. His speed was extremely fast. The emperor descends from heaven. Suppress. Boom. A shadow of the human emperor followed behind Yi Qinghan. It waved its hand and mobilized the might of heaven and earth. It was as if the firmament was pressing down and slapped at the gap of the heaven-severing hand. It made up for Emperor Ye's flaw and forced Zaikan to resist it forcefully. Humph! Zaikan coldly snorted and indifferently said, "Even if you want to resist, how much true essence do you have?" Whoosh! Jacquin mobilized all the true essence in his body and formed a huge golden dragon sword, which slashed directly at the heaven-severing hand. Emperor Ye's heaven-severing palm actually merged with Yi Qinghan's emperor's descent in midair. The 2 palms intersected and pressed down together, colliding with the gigantic golden dragon sword. The 2 terrifying attacks were tit for tat, and neither could do anything to the other. Master and disciple combined their attacks, instantly erupting with power, were actually only able to tie with Zaikan. Now they were completely competing in will and true essence. Whoever couldn't hold on would definitely die. Kacha! The mountain rocks beneath Yi Qinghan's feet crumbled, and the mountain peak that Zaikan was on also shattered. Gravel fell into the absolute sky sea, and along with the mighty waves, it crashed into the cliff and turned into fine powder. The three people's clothes fluttered in the wind. Zaikan used the last of his strength to place Jian Shui's stone statue to the side, and began to mobilize all his strength to fight the two. Bang! Yi Qinghan withstood a terrifying pressure. Emperor Yi only cared about attacking, but he had to withstand all of Zaikan's pressure. His feet crushed the rocks beneath him as he constantly retreated. Even though his legs were protected by the gold origin and azure dragon body, they were still cracking and bleeding incessantly. Dragon blood boiled and roared as it crazily absorbed spiritual energy to restore its true essence. The consumption was too fast, and no matter how powerful the body was, it couldn't withstand such consumption. The golden scale armor shone brightly in the 9 heavens, and the heavy berserker war saber was almost twisted out of shape. It was simply unable to withstand the combined strength of the three people. Overall, Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi were still in a dominant position. The giant hand formed by the Emperor's descent clenched tightly, and continuously pressed down on the blade of true essence. Zaikan's true essence was extremely pure, but at this moment, he was actually unable to withstand it. His eyes revealed a terrifying light as he pushed his palms forward, and the body of the golden dragon sword and the blade of true essence merged into one. His palms formed a seal, and once again he pushed back the sword hilt. The fierce collision caused the three people to simultaneously retreat several steps. The mountain rocks beneath their feet crumbled, and 2 cracks appeared that extended together. Yi Qinghan's leg bones were broken, but he stubbornly held on. His injuries worsened, but he stopped 2 meters away from the cliff. Although it was only 2 meters, it was the distance between life and death. Zaikan's eyes revealed an ominous glint, and his mouth revealed a cruel smile. He said in a cold voice, "Yi Qinghan, didn't you want to know who betrayed you? I'll tell you. It was Nangong Pou." Yi Qinghan snorted, not bothering to answer. "You don't believe me? Crippled martial, Zaikan broken martial. Can't you see?" Zaikan's lips curled up, and he said coldly, "Impossible. He was adopted by me when he was young." Yi Qinghan shouted in a deep voice, "Don't use such a clumsy method to trick me. The crippled martial inheritance really makes me feel disdain. So this is how the inheritors of the divine martial arts were killed by the crippled martial inheritors. What a joke. Only an ignorant kid like you would dare to say such a thing. The crippled martial arts path is even inferior to the divine martial arts codex, let alone you?" Zaikan sneered coldly. "Ashamed of being inferior? Then why did you scheme to kill my master, and not face him alone?" Emperor Yi was bleeding from his 7 orifices, but he still didn't want to let go. He firmly suppressed the sky-severing hand. "A pair of idiots. I already said that Xiao Zhanxing's death has nothing to do with me. It was done by Nangong Pou. Nangong Pou is the descendant of Nangong Crippled Martial, which means that he is the direct descendant of the founder of the Crippled Martial Arts path. He only wanted to use the opportunity to destroy the Divine Martial Arts Codex. It's your own stupidity, and you still want to blame me?" Zaikan replied disdainfully. Yi Qinghan was silent. If Nangong Pou was the descendant of the founder of the Crippled Martial Arts path, then everything would be logical. But if that was the case, why didn't the Divine Martial Arts Codex remind him? The Divine Martial Imperial Codex and the Crippled Martial Inheritance had an agreement. When the disciples of both sides compete, no matter if it's in terms of strategy or martial arts, they are not allowed to participate. This is why the Divine Martial Imperial Codex didn't appear even though he knew that you were in danger. In order to attract Yi Qinghan's attention, Zaikan revealed the secret in his heart, and continued. "Do you think that Nangong Pou's real combat power is only this much? Extremely stupid. His main body is in the crippled sect, and Nangong Pou is only a clone of his. His cultivation isn't even 1,000th of his main bodies. He is a strong candidate for this generation's sect master. If he wasn't held back by the crippled sect's senior martial brother, he would have killed his way here long ago." Yi Qinghan's eyes revealed a trace of shock as he hoarsely questioned, "A clone? He can cultivate a clone at the age of 7? This is the price you have to pay for looking down on others. The crippled sect is far stronger than the divine sect. This is the reason why the divine remnant sect split. Zakin coldly replied. Boom. Nangong Powu descended and looked at the battlefield with an indifferent expression. His entire temperament had undergone an earth-shattering change. Zakin, didn't we agree that we would each play our own game? You talk too much. As a punishment, I bestow upon you all to die together. Nangong Powu suddenly erupted as he shot his spear towards Zakin and kicked towards Yi Qinghan. He wanted to kill two birds with one stone and send the three of them into the absolute heaven ocean. Zakin's eyes flashed as he diverted a portion of his power towards the spear. He coldly said, if your main body personally came, then perhaps I would have been sent into the absolute heaven ocean. However, a mere clone of yours dares to act so rashly. Today, I will kill you. Yi Qinghan's anger reached the heavens as his eyes were filled with killing intent. So after such a big circle, the culprit was actually this Nangong Powu. Die for me. Yi Qinghan gave up on killing Zakin. He clenched his iron fist, causing his veins to bulge and his dragon scales to shatter as he fiercely smashed towards Nangong Powu's iron leg. Boom. Yi Qinghan's power was at its peak. His attack contained terrifying murderous intent. The Great Path, the Source, the Laws, the Azure Dragon Body, and the Source of the Great Path were all unleashed. His punch penetrated Nangong Powu's leg, almost pulverizing his entire right leg. PFFF. Nangong Powu flew backwards and crashed into a cliff. His figure suddenly flashed as he retreated a few hundred meters. Yi Qinghan was about to unleash his power and completely kill Nangong Powu's clone. However, Zakin suddenly unleashed his power and attacked again, causing Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi to retreat a few steps to the cliff. Yi Qinghan, take revenge in your next life. No, you no longer have a next life. The inheritance of the divine martial imperial code ends here. Zakin roared furiously. With a shift of his mind, the surroundings of the cliff exploded with rays of light that shot into the sky. It firmly imprisoned Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi within. The teleportation formation had been activated. The entire cliff was cut off. A hole appeared in the space and darkness descended, engulfing the cliff in an instant. Yi Qinghan's pupils shrank. At this moment, even the imperial weapon was awakened. The divine martial imperial code was furious and wanted to tear apart the imprisonment. However, when he attacked, he realized that this was no ordinary teleportation formation. It was clearly an imperial pattern. Even an extreme Dao imperial weapon would need a lot of time to destroy it. Hua! The cliff instantly disappeared in front of Zakin and Nangong Powu. Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi were teleported away at the same time. Nangong Powu, you have no chance to fight for the last inheritance of the martial Dao. I have even destroyed the inheritance of the divine martial imperial code. Eldest senior brother is not qualified to fight for it with me. Zakin said coldly. Nangong Powu looked coldly in the direction where the cliff disappeared and asked indifferently, where did you teleport them to? The center of the ultimate heaven ocean. No matter how powerful the divine martial imperial code is, it will not be able to create any waves. It will be completely petrified and coexist with the heavens and earth. Zakin replied coldly. You win. Nangong Powu grunted and turned to flee into the distance. Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi were shocked as they looked at the space around them being reversed. There was an irreversible force in the depths of the ultimate sky sea that was tearing them apart. Even the imperial weapon could not resist it. Their own powers were rapidly disappearing as if they had become mortals. Boom. The two of them suddenly felt dizzy and fell down heavily. Yi Qinghan hugged Emperor Yi tightly while he cushioned the fall. He hoped to buy some distance and time for her. Crack. The crisp sound of broken bones resounded through the clouds. Yi Qinghan let out a mournful and angry roar. He rolled continuously, but he was unable to dissipate the terrifying force of the impact. He crashed heavily onto the ground with Ren Huangyi. Chapter 313. In the boundless universe, the eternal battlefield was in chaos. The primal Chaos Emperor led the remaining 20 dead spirits and wiped out dozens of starfields. Everywhere they went, they were like locusts. No matter how much life force the primal Chaos Emperor devoured, it couldn't compare to the damage caused by the pangolin Great Emperor. At this moment, he only wanted to devour all the quasi-emperors on the eternal battlefield and recover his life force. Half a month later, many dead spirits flew over the eternal battlefield and appeared at the periphery. They faced off against the primal massacre god, the Tao realm experts, and the imperial sage monarch experts. 300 quasi-emperors, 3,000 false emperors, hundreds of thousands of divine martial experts, 100,000 primal massacre gods, 30,000 combat divisions, and 3,000 special bloodlines. They stood firm at the edge of the battlefield. Behind them was the ancestral land of the human race. They couldn't retreat. Woo! The Azure Dragon Quasi-Emperor held his dragon horn and blew gently, commanding the heroes of the 10,000 races. A million-strong army gathered. The Quasi-Emperors held their swords and prepared to fight to the death. The broken body of the primal Chaos Emperor was constantly decaying. His life force was being lost much faster than the life force he was gaining. At this moment, facing the countless heroes who were unafraid of death, he sneered. A bunch of ants dare to lead a group of people to stop this emperor. The primal Chaos Emperor sneered. At least we are as proud as Taiyang. Zhang Yinshao roared. His battle intent surged. Even if he knew that he would die, he wasn't willing to retreat. Kill them. Kill them all. This time, we will wipe out the Tao realm experts of the human race and the sage monarch experts of the 10,000 races. The primal Chaos Emperor ordered. The 20 dead spirits shattered the sky and pounced. Both sides were mortal enemies. There was no need for words. Boom. The immemorial battlefield fell into chaos. The immemorial array was activated. And regardless of friend or foe, anyone who touched it would die. The 50,000 people of the ancient death god Legion surrounded an undead spirit and fought in a frenzy, using their lives to exchange for a single wound. The combat divisions were the same. They attacked without caring about casualties. Corpses fell constantly and blood stained the ground. It was like a vast sea roaring. Most of the people with special constitutions were at the divine martial realm. When they unleashed their full strength, almost 1,000 of them could stop a single undead spirit. Moreover, the sun and moon appeared at the same time. Heavenly dragons roared as they fought until the heavens collapsed and the earth split. The Azure Dragon bloodline had more than 300 divine martial experts, 8 fake emperors, 2 low-level Azure Dragon quasi-emperors, and the Azure Dragon quasi-emperor, who was at the pinnacle. They were the strongest fighting force. Just 300 of them were enough to stop 2 undead spirits. Each of the Sage Monarch clans had sent out 3,000 experts, each of whom was fighting a single dead spirit. The 300 combat emperors did not attack the undead spirits. Instead, they surrounded the primal Chaos Emperor. The 3 monarch weapons, including the sky battling spear, were all awakened. The monarch's aura was vast and mighty. Only great emperors could go against monarch weapons. Although monarch weapons were not as powerful as great emperors, they were equivalent to great emperors themselves. A bunch of ants. The primal Chaos Emperor was disdainful. With a wave of his hand, he controlled time and space, and even the heavens and earth froze. He grabbed a few boundary emperors and directly devoured their vitality. The boundary emperors were powerless against a primal Chaos Emperor. Boom. The battle sky spear erupted and pierced through the void, wanting to kill the half-crippled primal Chaos Emperor. At the same time, the Azure Dragon Quasi-Emperor blew his dragon horn. His voice was majestic and shook the world. It was as if a divine dragon had descended, and its might shook the heavens. A divine dragon phantom crossed the ages and descended into the world, directly sweeping towards the primal Chaos Emperor. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. The primal Chaos Emperor did not fight with the experts with Emperor weapons. His figure suddenly disappeared, and in the next breath he appeared behind another boundary emperor. He attacked with a sure kill move, forcibly stealing his vitality. All the boundary emperors were furious. Some boundary emperors directly self-destructed when they got close to the primal Chaos Emperor. It was a completely unafraid of death. Boom. The self-destruction of the boundary emperors was terrifying. Even the other boundary emperors in the endless universe were sent flying. The shockwave rushed into the galaxy, shaking the Aeon battlefield. Wails filled the world as countless living beings howled in rage. The endless universe was too weak. Facing a primal chaos emperor, they could only wait for death. Some boundary emperors did not even have the chance to self-destruct and were instantly devoured. In the blink of an eye, less than 200 boundary emperors were left. Seal this space for me. The Azure Dragon Quasi-Emperor roared. He was unwilling to accept the boundary emperors dying one by one, which increased the vitality and battle strength of the primal Chaos Emperor. He decided to use his strongest battle strength by self-destructing. Even if he could not destroy the primal Chaos Emperor, he could still severely injure him. It would give the others a chance to kill him. Boom. The battle sky spear broke free from Zhang Yunxiao's restraint and stabbed into the void. Battle intent filled the sky, and divine light shot out in all directions, sealing the surroundings. Two extreme Dao battle swords followed closely, completely sealing the battle zone. More than 200 boundary emperors worked together to strengthen the seal with the emperor weapons. Let's die together. The Azure Dragon Quasi-Emperor's blood stained the sky. His final burst of power actually shot out a terrifying emperor aura. The dragon horn and dragon aura shot out and expanded together, charging towards the primal Chaos Emperor with the Azure Dragon Quasi-Emperor. The primal Chaos Emperor did not expect the endless universe's counterattack to be so crazy this time. He wanted to tear the void and rush out of the battle zone, but with the three extreme Dao Emperor weapons and the eruption of more than 200 boundary emperors, how could his half-dead body tear it apart? Boom. With a violent explosion, the dragon horn exploded. The Azure Dragon Quasi-Emperor also self-destructed. Dragon blood flowed through the Milky Way, shining brightly. The entire endless universe could clearly see that the eternal battlefield was like a giant fireball, spreading out for thousands of miles. PFFF. The primal Chaos Emperor's corpse was blasted into pieces. He spat out a mouthful of essence blood, and his emperor clothes were tattered. He was even more miserable than a beggar. At this moment, his anger was overflowing, and his battle strength dropped again. Swish. Dominating heaven followed closely into the sealed battle zone. Without even saying a word, he directly self-destructed. Swish. 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 The boundary emperors seemed to have seen hope as they rushed in one after another. Ancient massacre god. Even if I die, I won't regret it. Qin Heng and Zuoxian rushed in one after another. They directly self-destructed and died on the spot. Tragic. Almost all the boundary emperors were annihilated. Xiachen Tian Zhang Yunxiao, the archaic mysteries sect leader. One after another, the great Tao rumbled, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Dark clouds covered time and space. The primal Chaos Emperor was incomparably miserable. He kept dodging, and his emperor aura was vast. Some people had just rushed in but were killed on the spot before they could self-destruct. You bunch of ants, die for me. The wounds that you have inflicted on me. I will take revenge 1,000,000 times in your race. The primal Chaos Emperor roared. If this place wasn't sealed by the extreme Dao Monarch weapon, he would have already killed his way into the human race's territory. There were less than 30 boundary emperors left, and they were in despair. 300 boundary emperors, and most of them were the clan leaders of their respective races. With their peak battle strength, they couldn't even kill a crippled great emperor. Idiots, at least they are not pigs raised in captivity. Regardless of whether they are dead or alive, they are unyielding. Unlike you, who are just pigs in other people's pigsty. You have no dignity and no bottom line. When other people want to eat your meat, you have to cut your meat for them to eat. You want to seek immortality like this? What a joke. The experts of the insane sect and the geniuses of the endless universe were all here. Unwilling to hide behind, the parrot stood on Di Longtian's shoulder and sneered coldly. Insane sect. I was just about to look for you, but I didn't expect you to deliver yourselves to me. The primal Chaos Emperor's eyes shot out a terrifying cold light. He swept his gaze across the crowd and asked coldly, "Where is Yi Qinghan? That bastard dared to attack me. I will crush his bones and scatter his ashes today." My master has gone to your hometown, you idiot primal Chaos Emperor. When you see your grandpa Divine Bird, Why don't you come over and kowtow? The parrot sneered and said disdainfully. The primal Chaos Emperor's blood boiled, and he was almost angered to death. He pointed at the parrot and trembled, not knowing what to say. After a long time, the primal Chaos Emperor finally reacted. He frowned and asked coldly, "Who are you? How do you know my name?" The remaining boundary emperors were stunned. They didn't know what era the primal Chaos Emperor was. He had died of old age in the Forbidden Land, but his soul was still there, and he had become an undead spirit. Almost no one knew his name, but the parrot knew it. How did it know? The parrot's eyes shone brightly. It was ready to scam someone again, but this time it was a great emperor. It grinned and said, "Little thing, you don't even remember me. Do you still remember the Tianyan death god? Tianyan, that bastard. I will tear him apart sooner or later. I don't care who you are. Today, you have blasphemed the emperor's prestige. I will make sure you die without a burial place." The primal Chaos Emperor was furious. He tore at the shackles, wanting to break out and kill the parrot. Whoosh! The parrot squatted on the emperor's sword and rushed into the void, cursing at the primal Chaos Emperor. "You are an idiot. If you have the ability, come after me. You won't be able to catch up with me even if you have 2 legs. Roar! The primal Chaos Emperor was so angry that his blood erupted. He didn't even care about his life. He used his last bit of life force and erupted with all his strength, tearing apart the shackles. A giant hand that covered the sky tore through space and time and grabbed at the parrot. The parrot's feathers stood on end. It roared at the emperor's sword. "Go! Fly according to the route I told you before." Whoosh! The emperor's sword carried the parrot and rushed into the primitive universe. There was no life there, and there was despair everywhere. Even great emperors would go there to train, search for opportunities, and forge emperor weapons. The primal Chaos Emperor missed, but he hated the parrot to the bone. He grabbed 2 boundary emperors and swallowed them to replenish some of his life force. Then he madly charged at the parrot. The parrot was afraid that he wouldn't chase after it, so it turned and cursed. "You idiot primal chaos. So what if I blaspheme you? Can you bite me? Come after me. Come on. I'll let you have a pair of wings. If you can catch me, you can call me Grandpa Divine Bird. I want you dead." The primal Chaos Emperor ignored the boundary emperors behind him. He directly cut off space and time, wanting to stop the parrot. The emperor's sword was extremely fast. It pierced through the void and directly entered the primitive universe. The primal Chaos Emperor followed closely behind, leaving the boundary emperors looking at each other. "What are you standing there for? Kill them. Completely stop this group of dead spirits." Xia Ziluo went crazy. Clutching the Yellow Springs diagram, she directly pounced at a dead spirit and roared, "Grasp the heavens!" Boom! Space and time were distorted by her. The Yellow Springs hell diagram wrapped around her golden body, allowing her to act without restraint. She absorbed all the spirit chi within a radius of 10,000 miles, and tightly grasped the body of a dead spirit. The sky-covering palm continued to collapse as the dead spirit madly struggled. All of the 100 battle kings appeared. They surrounded the dead spirit and launched their strongest attacks without any regard for their lives. Chapter 314. Heaven's Equal Monkey King, Longqiang, Yangzhan, Xianjiutian, Shige Yangzhan, Muyu Tianchen. Although their battle prowess was slightly inferior to that of a pseudo-emperor or a perfection stage divine martial expert, the lethality of their attacks wasn't any weaker than theirs. Boom! Hundreds of experts attacked at the same time. The sun and moon were captured by Muyu Tianchen and Nangong Qingyue, along with Xia Ziluo's giant hand. Ling was completely submerged. Roar! A bunch of ignorant brats dared to fight against this emperor. Ling was terrifying. He grabbed the heaven-raising war staff and sent Heaven's Equal Monkey King flying. Heaven and earth boundless, brick invincible, ancient divine artifact who can compete. Shige controlled the golden brick, which kept growing and smashed into Ling's head. The pseudo-apex emperor weapon's killing power wasn't small, directly taking away half of Ling's life. Dragon subduing seal. Li Jiucheng formed a seal and activated the dragon subduing seal. It was as if heaven and earth were about to be suppressed. Taking advantage of the fact that Si Ling was a bit dizzy from being smashed by Shirgu, he smashed over. Kill. Xia Qiyue couldn't sense Xia Qintian's aura. Tears of blood flowed as she became one with her sword, piercing through the void and smashing into Si Ling's chest. Si Ling was a perfect quasi-emperor. Even if his battle power had dropped, it wasn't something a group of juniors could break free from. Si Ling tore apart Xia Ziluo's shackles. His aura erupted, and his emperor aura and death qi destroyed dozens of experts. Most of the 100 battle kings fell back, and those with weaker bodies were torn apart. Their vitality was erased by the death qi, and they died on the spot. The ancient massacre god had stopped 8 undead spirits. A total of 100,000 people had stopped 8 powerful undead spirits. The ancient massacre god was almost completely wiped out. There were less than 50,000 undead spirits left, and he had killed 3 of them. The price he had paid was not small. It wasn't just the combat division that was as tragic as them. The casualty rate of the combat division was more than 60%. More than half of those with special constitutions died, causing heaven and earth to wail. The celestial wolf race was almost completely wiped out. This was the Saint Monarch race. The celestial wolf race's pseudo-emperor roared, and his mournful voice resounding through the mountains and rivers. More than half of the heavenly dragon army of the heavenly dragon holy court was annihilated, and the eternal cloud sky holy grounds 3,000 elite inner court disciples were annihilated. Even the great elder was killed. They were heroes. They died resolutely, smashing into the eternal battlefield. The people of the world would remember this battle even after 1,000,000 years. The remaining 30-odd boundary emperors joined the battle. They were so crazy that their eyes turned red. They grabbed onto a dead spirit and self-destructed. I've lived long enough. All of you will die with me. Boom. Another boundary emperor self-detonated and killed a dead spirit. The aftermath killed hundreds of experts, but no one was willing to retreat. There were still 4 undead spirits left, including Lightning, the speed-type quasi-emperor undead spirit. His silhouette flickered as he continued to ambush the experts, not wanting to fight to the death with the quasi-emperors. Large batches of divine martial experts fell under Lightning's hands. Lightning's battle prowess grew stronger and stronger. His battle prowess was achieved by stepping on countless corpses. More than 10 boundary emperors pounced toward Lightning in a frenzy. They hated him to the core and were prepared to join forces to kill this strongest existence. The remaining boundary emperors each went for a dead spirit. The 3 extreme Dao Monarch weapons unleashed their full power. The sky battling spear instantly pierced through a dead spirit. The dead spirit's life force dissipated, and it died on the spot. Ring. The myriad race's emperor sword also killed a dead spirit. The last one was killed by the human race's emperor weapon. Lightning was the only dead spirit left. Ring, ring, ring. The 3 extreme Dao Monarch weapons were enraged. They controlled the heaven and earth from 3 different directions, and forced him into the depths of the eternal battlefield. The Eternal Era's array was activated. The Emperor patterns with terrifying killing intent tore off one of his legs. The life force that he had gathered with great difficulty was destroyed again. The sky battling spear and the other extreme Dao Monarch weapons instantly caught up and killed him. The 30-odd undead spirits that came out were all annihilated. However, they brought a devastating disaster to the human race and the myriad race. Almost all the divine martial experts were annihilated. The ancient massacre gods had less than 30,000, and the combat division was less than 5,000. 3 of the 12 Saint Royal races were annihilated. 4 of the Saint Royal races were severely injured. The Azure Dragon race suffered heavy losses. It would take them at least 10,000 years to recover. Everyone get ready. That undead spirit emperor will come back sooner or later. It will be worth it no matter how many casualties we suffer. A human boundary emperor said mournfully. Everyone was in despair. The 30-odd undead spirit emperor had already caused irreparable damage to the endless universe. When the primal chaos emperor returned, the endless universe would definitely be destroyed. This was the tragedy of having no emperors. They were at the mercy of others. Guangzong and the other experts of the younger generation gathered together. They looked at the untainted land and clenched their fists. They were all waiting for the good news from the parrot. Where did that little bird lure that emperor to? The remaining experts looked at the people of Guangzhou. Everyone knew that the stupid bird was too deceitful. It could always kill people when it attacked. The Qilin tiger and countless elites of the human race had been deceived. Everyone was hoping that this time, the untainted emperor would also be half dead. Perhaps the endless universe still had a chance. Li Jiucheng and the others shook their heads. They had no idea what the parrot was trying to do. This was not its style at all. In the past, it would never provoke an emperor. This time, it actually took the initiative to provoke and lure away the strongest emperor of the endless universe. It was unbelievable. In the untainted universe, dead stars were constantly exploding. The emperor captured a huge star and smashed it at the emperor's guardian sword. However, the parrot continued to provoke it. It cursed at the primal chaos emperor. It had never been scolded like this in its life. At this moment, the primal chaos emperor was so angry that he was dizzy. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The emperor's guardian sword was extremely fast. It moved the stars and streaked past the meteors. The emperor's aura rushed in all directions and protected the parrot. The parrot could provoke the primal chaos emperor without any scruples. Little bastard, you can't even catch up with this divine bird. What are you doing? Come and kiss my butt if you have the guts. Come quickly. How did you become a great emperor, with this little strength? Bah. Catch up with your grandpa divine bird. I can suppress you with a little claw. The parrot raised its head and pointed at the primal chaos emperor angrily. Poof. Ah. I know who you are. You bastard, I'm going to kill you. The primal chaos emperor was so angry that he vomited blood. Death chi filled the air and covered the sky. The untainted universe was in chaos. A powerful untainted universe beast was like a small star. It waved its huge forelimb and smashed a star. It then charged at the primal chaos emperor. Boom. The primal chaos emperor was burning with anger. He punched a hole through the untainted universe beast's head and devoured its vitality. His combat strength rose again. I can't believe you recognize your grandpa divine bird, said the parrot, laughing cockily. Well then, why don't you come and pay your respects? You're an old bird. You're a bastard born of a violent phoenix. You should have died back then, you bastard. The primal chaos emperor roared and exposed the parrot's background. The parrot looked as if its butt had been set on fire. It jumped up and roared. Fuck your mother. My father is a romantic, elegant, and charming divine bird that everyone loves. Flowers bloom when they see him. My mother automatically submits to him. How is that strong and violent? You old idiot. My father didn't rape your woman, nor did he rape your mother. You old bastard. You actually dare to slander my supreme father. Only that bastard of a father of yours would be so shameless as to spout such nonsense. He would even lie to his own son. In reality, who doesn't know that your father raped an underage rank 9 divine phoenix to give birth to a bastard like you? The primal chaos emperor was like a shrew. He scolded the parrot, completely forgetting that he was a high and mighty great emperor. Ha ha ha, you're just jealous of my father. My father said that you're too ugly, and that you couldn't find a wife in your entire life. In the end, you wanted to rape a mystical dragon, but that mystical dragon turned out to be a male. Instead, you were raped by it. That's why you're slandering him everywhere. You don't have to explain. Poof. The primal chaos emperor coughed up blood again. He staggered and almost fell into the depths of the untainted universe. The parrot's words were too vicious. Even a boundary emperor couldn't stand such words, let alone a high and mighty great emperor. Ha ha ha, if you don't explain, I'll take it as a yes. My father was right. The parrot mocked. The emperor's sword was trembling. This bird was indeed infuriating. It just told him not to explain because he wouldn't believe it even if he did. Now that he didn't explain, it turned around and said that no one could stand it. No wonder the primal chaos emperor was willing to give up his life to chase after him. You're pissing me off. The primal chaos emperor stirred up mountains and rivers, trying to stop the emperor's sword from escaping. The sky-covering hand crushed a star and smashed it forward. The parrot laughed mockingly. It couldn't even be bothered to scold anymore. If it did, it would attract the Primal Chaos Emperor's attention. The more it was like this, the more the Primal Chaos Emperor didn't want to give up. In the untainted universe, there was no life. Everything was evolving and everything was primitive. In front of them was a huge star field. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Countless lightning bolts gathered and almost drowned the star field. In the lightning region, there was always lightning. Even a boundary emperor would be torn apart if he entered. Even a great emperor had to be careful and didn't dare to disturb the lightning region. However, there were many opportunities here. Many divine metals that had been tempered by lightning were excellent materials for forging fake great emperor weapons. Some divine metals that had been tempered for hundreds of thousands of years could even be used to forge great emperor weapons. Charge in. The parrot reminded in a low voice. The emperor's sword's aura stagnated. However, at this time, it could only try its best. Whoosh! The emperor's sword rushed into the lightning region with the parrot and disappeared in the blink of an eye. The Primal Chaos Emperor followed closely. He had been here before and knew how dangerous it was. However, he didn't want to retreat at this time. Otherwise, he wouldn't know how he would be slandered by this bird. Everyone had a breath to live, let alone a great emperor. Boom! Lightning struck the great emperor's body and crazily wiped out his life force. At this moment, the emperor's sword was in danger. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh! The great emperor and the emperor's sword shuttled through the lightning. More and more thick lightning bolts appeared and tore the void. If a boundary emperor were to come into contact with them, he would be instantly torn to pieces. The parrot squatted on the emperor's sword's hilt and trembled. It murmured, "Father said that there is the origin of lightning here that can kill a great emperor. Why can't I sense it?" The surroundings were filled with terrifying lightning. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, covering the sky and earth. The parrot was like a headless fly that commanded the emperor's sword to fly around randomly. Chapter 3:15. The outside world was in chaos, but the depths of the ultimate sky sea were peaceful. In the depths of the ultimate sky sea, the sea water roared without end. However, no laws existed, and no one could fly in the ultimate sky sea. In the center of the vast ultimate sky sea, there was an island that never sank. There were trees and birds on it, forming a world of their own. Although they couldn't cultivate, it was rare for them to be peaceful, and they didn't have to worry about being devoured by the dead spirits. The island was huge, with a radius of a few thousand meters. It was lush, with tall mountains and flowing water. A waterfall fell from the sky, and 100-jong tall mountain was rugged in the sky, surrounded by celestial mist. Boom! The sea water slammed against the shore, deafening the ears. Yi Qinghan was awakened by the sound of the waves. His whole body was in pain, and he felt that his soul had left his body. His fingertips moved slightly, and he grabbed the unconscious Emperor Yi. He opened his eyes slightly, and looked at the sky with white clouds and a scorching sun. Yi Qinghan wanted to move and struggle, but at least 3 of his ribs were broken, and he couldn't use any true essence in his body. Fortunately, the dragon blood wasn't suppressed, and his damaged azure dragon body quickly recovered. However, his face was still pale. His lips were cracked, and he was exposed to the scorching sun. Yi Qinghan didn't know how long he had been unconscious. He struggled to get up, and carried Emperor Yi towards the center of the island, deep in the mountains. Relying on walking, it took more than an hour to cover more than 10 li. Yi Qinghan came to the side of the pool under the waterfall. He didn't dare to use it directly, and first took a willow branch to test it. He found that it wasn't petrified, and he couldn't help but be surprised that there was still life in such a hopeless place. He leaned over the pool and drank a few mouthfuls of water to replenish his water, and then he took some for Emperor Yi. After being replenished, Emperor Yi woke up and found that he couldn't even sense the divine Guqin. However, he could open his eyes, and he was not used to it. "Master, where is this?" Emperor Yi found that his true essence was completely suppressed, and asked in shock. "It should be in the depths of the ultimate sky sea." Qian had long planned to send the divine martial imperial codex to this place and completely cut off the inheritance of the divine martial imperial codex. Yi Qinghan's voice was hoarse. He stared at the blazing sun to determine the direction, but it was useless. He couldn't use his true origin. The seawater of the ultimate heaven sea could instantly petrify a boundary emperor. He could only wait here to die of old age. Emperor Ye's expression changed slightly. In this place, no matter how special one's constitution was, they were all mortals. They were powerless. He couldn't summon his heavy manic saber, nor could he use his universe ring. He couldn't even change his clothes. The two of them were dressed in rags and looked like beggars. Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. The two of them didn't find any large beasts on this deserted island. There were only some birds, not even a single rabbit. However, there were some fish, which didn't completely cut off their vitality. Yi Qinghan searched for a long time and finally found a small cave. It was very flat and could be used as a temporary residence. However, there were no beds or blankets. This kind of place was very cold at night and wasn't suitable for mortals to stay in. Emperor Yi carried some dead branches and leaves and piled them in the cave. Yi Qinghan rushed into the stream and caught some strange fish. They were about the length of a chopstick. This kind of creature hadn't been discovered in the outside world. Yi Qinghan was, after all, an azure dragon body. His physical body was much stronger than the average person's. He forcibly created a stone pot and set it up. He dissected the fish and cleaned it. Then he started a fire and threw the fish into the pot to cook. There were no ingredients here. Yi Qinghan casually found some herbs and threw them in. He then sat beside the pot and thought about how to leave this place. The situation in the outside world wasn't clear. There were so many children in the crazy sect. Although he didn't have any blood relatives, he still treated them as family. The flame shone on Yi Qinghan's face. His old and strong face was full of helplessness. Soon the fish began to emit a fragrant aroma. The two of them finally sensed the mortal's desire for food. They used the willow branch as chopsticks and created a wooden spoon. The two of them began to eat. The entire pot of fish was cleanly devoured by the two of them. This kind of fish looked very strange, but it tasted very good. When it entered their stomachs, a warm current flowed through their bodies. After eating, Emperor Ye's face was slightly red. He murmured, "Master, I want to take a bath." Yi Qinghan pointed downstream and said, "Go ahead and take a bath. There's no third person here." Emperor Yi pursed his lips. He took off all his clothes behind a big rock downstream. Then holding his clothes he jumped down with a splash. Yi Qinghan listened to the rustling behind him and sighed secretly. He regretted bringing Emperor Yi along. In the outside world, she might be able to prove her Tao and lead the human race to glory. Here, she could only be an ordinary mountain girl, waiting for her beauty to fade away. Currently, Ren Huangyi was already a grown woman. She was 1.7 meters tall, and her skin could be broken with a flick of a finger. Her appearance couldn't be considered peerless, but her temperament was enough to instantly kill any woman. That kind of otherworldly, fresh, and refined charm came from her bones. At this moment, his long hair was draped over his shoulders. His skin was crystal clear. His slender jade hands were constantly wiping his jade arms. His proud figure was buried in the water. He was as beautiful as jade, stunning the world and making all creatures submit to him. "Master, what if we can't go back?" Emperor Yi asked softly. Yi Qinghan was stunned. He said hoarsely, "We can't go back. There's always a way out." "I'm saying if. What if we really can't go back?" Emperor Yi asked expectantly. "Then I'll jump into the ultimate heaven sea. I want to see if this sea water can really turn me to stone instantly." Yi Qinghan was indifferent. With his personality, he definitely wouldn't be content to be trapped here for the rest of his life. Emperor Yi sighed. He knew that his master's stubborn temper couldn't be changed. He thought about how he was also a peerless little beauty. Why wasn't he moved at all? Was it really so good to prove one's Tao? After Emperor Yi finished washing his body, he also washed his clothes. Then he hung them under the scorching sun to dry. "Master, it's very cold at night. Why don't you take off your clothes, wash them, and use them as a blanket tonight. Emperor Yi lay behind the huge rock and looked at Yi Qinghan with a mischievous expression. Yi Qinghan frowned. He looked at his immortal sect robes that were tattered. They couldn't even cover his body. If he took them to wash, what would he wear? Master, don't tell me you're shy? We're the only ones here right now. If you don't wash your clothes and let them dry, you'll freeze to death at night. Emperor Ye's young face revealed a sly smile. His row of tiny teeth sparkled under the sunlight. Yi Qinghan smiled wryly. Emperor Ye's words were very true. Their clothes were covered in dust. Without a blanket at night, they were no longer powerful immortal sect kings. They were mere mortals. It was very easy for them to freeze to death. In the end, Yi Qinghan chose to compromise. He went to the other side of the rock and took off his clothes. He washed all of his clothes and placed them on the rock to dry. The sun was right in the middle of the sky. The light was very good. The two leaned against each other and closed their eyes to rest. As night fell, a cold wind blew. Yi Qinghan's body shivered. He opened his eyes and put on the dried clothes. He stood up and found that Emperor Yi had already put on his clothes. He was collecting large amounts of dried branches and leaves. Master, these are life-saving items. It's cold at night. We can warm ourselves by the fire. Emperor Ye's face was bright red. Clearly, it was because he had peeked at Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched. He looked at the sensible Emperor Yi and sighed in his heart. He thought to himself, perhaps this is also good. There's no need to be so tired. There's no need to think so much. The red sun disappeared completely. The cold wind became stronger and stronger. The storm came together. It was so cold that Yi Qinghan shivered. The two quickly rushed into the cave. There was a large tree in front of the cave. It blocked the rain from entering, but the temperature inside the cave was very low. It was not suitable for humans to live in. Emperor Ye's teeth chattered. He hugged Yi Qinghan tightly, trying to gain some warmth. Yi Qinghan's heart ached. He took out a flint and kept grinding it. Sparks flew in all directions. They rushed into the dried leaves and ignited them. Fortunately, Emperor Yi had foresight. Otherwise, the two of them would not have been able to survive the first day and would have frozen to death here. Yi Qinghan placed the dried branches one by one on the fire. He was very thrifty. There were not too many dried branches. At most, it would last for 2 days. No one knew how long this damned weather would last. The cold wind rushed into the cave and almost extinguished the fire. Yi Qinghan took off his jacket and put it on Emperor Yi. He gritted his teeth and rushed out. He carried a large rock and blocked half of the cave entrance. Phew, Yi Qinghan exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. He finally felt some warmth. This was not the first time he had experienced this kind of cold. He often experienced it when he was a mortal. This feeling made him feel as if he had returned to the past. Emperor Yi spread Yi Qinghan's immortal robe on the dried leaves. He looked up at Yi Qinghan and said, Master, let us warm ourselves together. Are you still paying attention to the old-fashioned customs at this time? Yi Qinghan looked at Emperor Yi. His young face was full of craftiness. He forgot about the temporary situation and slowly hugged Emperor Yi. His body temperature rose rapidly and his blood boiled. Yi Qinghan was not a saint. He was a saint. The two of them used the immortal robe as a blanket. They squeezed together. Their hearts pounded against each other. Their handsome faces revealed a trace of awkwardness. I always thought that Master was a saint. It turns out that you are also a mortal. Emperor Yi teased. He looked a little shy, but his heart was happy. The outside world had nothing to do with her. Her only family was Yi Qinghan. The insane sect could be considered half her home. Thump, thump, thump. Yi Qinghan's lips were dry. He swallowed a mouthful of saliva. He cared about ethics. This had nothing to do with desire. It was just a natural reaction of the original body. Only a heartless and desireless stone would not have any reaction. Emperor Yi looked at Yi Qinghan quietly. She rested her chin on her hands. She was pure and innocent, but she did not know how to get along with a man. Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi looked at each other. Their minds were in a mess. They were already in such a desperate situation. The hope of getting out was almost zero. Being able to spend the rest of his life with Emperor Yi might be the best choice. Master, I think this is good. There are no bad people here. There is no war. There is only us. There are trees, forests, mountains, seas, fishes, and birds. We don't have to worry about divine martial artists or fake emperors coming the next day. Isn't that right? Emperor Yi smiled. She was pure and did not have high expectations. Nothing could make her happier than being able to spend the rest of her life with the person she liked and cared about. Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. He also wanted to live a simple and happy life. But what about the insane sect? What about the billions of souls on Owl War Planet? Were they going to abandon them? Yi Qinghan could not do it, but he would not be so selfish. If there was a way to leave one day, he would do his best to return to the imperial domain. Even if he died tragically on the battlefield, he would at least stand tall and not fall. Yi Qinghan did not need to guess. He knew that the imperial domain had become hell on earth. Demons filled the universe. Humans were demons too. In this chaotic world, who could escape the curse of fate? It was warm inside the house. Outside, the cold wind was howling. The sea was churning, and the roar was deafening. Boom, 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 splash, splash, splash. The seawater submerged half of the island and was spreading towards the depths. Everywhere it passed, everything was petrified. At this rate, it would soon reach the cave. Yi Qinghan would not be able to escape this place. The birds cried out mournfully. They sensed danger and kept flying towards the mountains. Chapter 316. Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi looked at each other. Love had always been illusory and came from the heart. The relationship between master and disciple sublimated at this moment, but no one dared to poke that layer of paper. What Yi Qinghan did not know was that the human race was now in imminent danger. Almost all of their quasi-emperors were dead, and there was a shortage of fake emperors. There were not many divine martial artists left. The 10,000 races suffered heavy losses, and all of them retreated. There were only a few people left in the Blue Dragon bloodline. Long Qiong looked at the place where the quasi-emperors of her race had self-destructed, and built the fragments of the dragon horn. Tears welled up in her eyes. To the Blue Dragon tribe, this dragon horn was like the emperor's sword of the ancient killing god. It was destroyed just like that. The quasi-emperors of her race died without a complete corpse. The people of the crazy sect were silent. They looked at Long Qiong's back and did not know how to comfort her. Because the human race had suffered even more losses. Now that the ancient killing god had declined, the crazy sect would have a harder time. Qitian Monkey King patted Long Qiong's shoulder to comfort her. This was not the time for the younger generation to fight fiercely. The Celestial Wolf tribe was destroyed, and the Celestial Tiger tribe did not have anyone above the immortal realm left. Only a group of old, weak, sick, and disabled people were left. If they did not support each other, they would definitely be wiped out in the future. At this moment, in the territory of the myriad races, in an endless mountain range, a small golden pangolin was like a small golden dragon. The mountain couldn't stop it at all. It could freely shuttle through the mountain rocks. To it, the earth was the warmest home. Even though it was young, its power was like lightning, fast to the extreme. It continuously devoured weaker creatures, and as time went on, it continuously grew stronger. Many patterns appeared in its sea of consciousness, and the great Tao was clearly visible. It could use many secret techniques without needing to learn them. The golden pangolin sped through the mountain range. It did not alarm any powerful creatures, and was slowly growing. If the quasi-emperors knew about it, they would definitely take it into their own race and raise it. Every force was changing. The Celestial Wolf tribe and the Celestial Tiger tribe had always been like fire and water, but now, they had come to a mutual understanding. They had migrated their tribes, and were looking out for each other. They didn't ask for much, just a few hundred years. After all, they were sage monarchs. Not only did the two clans do these things, they also sent the most outstanding bloodlines of their clans to the deep mountains and old forests, releasing them into the primitive forest, allowing them to develop freely. Even if one day, their main clans were destroyed, they could still continue their bloodline. It was the same for the human race. The Dao Realm Holy Lands were in a difficult situation. They didn't have much combat power left and couldn't protect the elites of their race. They sent people to send the elites to remote star regions in the middle of the night. They just wanted to hold on to their bloodline and revive after the great calamity. In the Zhang clan's Dao realm, Yang Zhan's face was sad. He held the sky battle spear in his hand and carried a baby less than a year old in his arms. He said to a divine martial expert with a hoarse voice, "You have the highest cultivation in the Zhang clan. Send Zhan Yin to the 9 continents star region. From today onwards, unless the clan summons you, you are not allowed to return. If anything happens to Yin, you won't be able to see your ancestors." The strongest divine martial expert of the Zhang clan cried. He respectfully took the child and kowtowed dozens of times before turning to leave. At this moment, who wouldn't despair? The Zhang clan's Dao realm still had an extreme Dao divine weapon left. They were already thinking of a way to leave a way out for their own clan. What about the other sects? Wangu Yuntian, the Special Physique Alliance, the Heaven's Secrets sect. That night, they sent away 1 or 2 children. The oldest was less than 10 years old, and the youngest was just born. They all left the Imperial domain and fled to the edge of the endless universe. They fled as far as they could. The further they were from the Imperial domain, the safer they would be. The endless universe was filled with sorrow. The heavenly Dao rumbled. Many clans left their homes and fled to the distance. The weak who were abandoned by their own clans cried out in pain. Unfortunately, no one pitied them because no one could protect themselves. In the Qianlong clan, the atmosphere was sad. The clan leader gave an order. Send away all direct descendants who are 10 years old and below 30. Those who are 5th grade and above. The rest stay in the ancestral land. The Qianlong clan has been here for thousands of years. We can't abandon the ancestral land. Even if we die in battle, this star will be the place of the souls of the Qianlong clan. It was like this in a chaotic world. Without the great emperor, who could escape the shackles of fate? Boom. Whoosh. On the deserted island of the celestial ocean, a deafening thunder set off thousands of waves. Then, a bolt of lightning comparable to the heavenly dragon pierced through the galaxy and struck the mountain peak. The entire mountain shook, and the peak was almost penetrated. The fire burned, but it was soon drowned by the torrential rain. Lightning came one after another, and thunder rumbled in the sky. The power of the celestial ocean seemed to want to destroy Emperor Yi. Dark clouds covered the sky, and the waves of the celestial ocean were terrifying. It was about to drown the entire deserted island. There seemed to be powerful ferocious beasts at the bottom of the sea, causing the seawater to churn and petrify everything. It was a sign that the ferocious beasts were about to be born. The Zither deity's crimson demon form. Only the first Zither emperor had unleashed its full combat power, sweeping through thousands of enemies. Even the great emperor had to bow and submit to it. The 2 later Zither deities' crimson demon form did not activate it. At least, they did not unleash their full combat power. Emperor Ye's crimson demon form was stimulated by the azure dragon's essence. Divine light shone all over his body, and the divine Zither imprint swam all over his body. Even though his spiritual ether had recovered, he could open his eyes without any restrictions. His eyes were as vast as the stars. The next day, the sun was still shining brightly on the island. It was as if it had not rained at all last night. However, the mountain peak had been pierced through by lightning. If it had not been for the torrential rain, the entire island would have been burned to ashes. A ray of morning light shone into the cave. Yi Qinghan squinted his eyes and looked outside the cave. He felt the spiritual ether in his body again. He had recovered at least 1/10 of it. His soul could also feel the existence of some natural laws. However, if he wanted to fly, he was still far from it. Emperor Yi was also awakened. The 2 of them looked at each other. Yi Qinghan looked at Emperor Yi with heartache. His desire to protect him reached its peak, and he smiled faintly. Yi Qinghan looked at the pitiful Emperor Yi. In the end, he could not bear to continue torturing him. He put on the brand new immortal sect Taoist robe on her body. He also put on his own clothes. With spiritual ether, he quickly came to the shore of the ultimate heaven sea. He looked at the endless sea and took a deep breath. Emperor Yi came behind him. He looked at the back view that was filled with vicissitudes and sadness. He was secretly sad. Yi Qinghan could not forget the scar, and the dead Jian Shui. Master, we will go back. We will definitely be able to take revenge. I can feel the natural laws of the great Tao. It is very clear. As long as I recover my cultivation, the ultimate heaven seawater will not be able to block my movement of spiritual ether. I can use the spatial laws to leave this place. Emperor Yi walked forward and hugged Yi Qinghan's waist. The Zither Immortal's crimson demon body, Zither string body, pure heart, and demon body were the three of them. No one was more terrifying than her. With the pure heart, nothing could block her from seeing the natural laws of the world. Not even the ultimate heaven seawater. Yi Qinghan's perception of the natural laws of the world was very vague. Especially the great Tao, he could not feel it at all. He was considered a top monster in the world. However, compared to Emperor Yi, he was still far behind. Although Ren Huangyi said that he could sense the great Tao of origin, Yi Qinghan didn't have much confidence that he could cross the endless sea. No one knew how wide the ultimate heaven sea was. If he ran out of true essence and there was no spiritual qi in the air, he wouldn't be able to replenish true essence. If he fell into the ultimate heaven sea, even a great emperor would be petrified. Time. It was very urgent. Yi Qinghan clenched his fists. He knew that the insane sect was very dangerous outside, but he could not do anything. That feeling of helplessness almost made him collapse. It was just like Xiao Zhanxing in the past. He wanted to protect himself, but he did not have the strength. It was a shame. If the insane sect was destroyed, even if he could prove his Tao one day, it would be an imperfect Tao. The outside world was indeed very dangerous. In the Thunder region, the parrot finally found the location of the Thunder origin. It guided the Emperor's sword to rush over. In the center of the Thunder region, a ball of lightning crossed the void. It was at least the size of a fist. It did not seem powerful, but the energy it contained could instantly destroy a great emperor. Once the Thunder origin exploded, the entire Thunder region would be in chaos. It could even affect the entire chaos and the endless universe. The parrot took a detour to the back of the Thunder origin. It raised its eyebrows and looked around. There was no lightning nearby. It was the safest place within a few hundred meters. However, the parrot was in a dilemma. How could it kill the Chaos Emperor without hurting itself? The Chaos Emperor's clothes were ragged. He had been attacked by lightning many times along the way, but he did not die. He was now on the verge of exploding. He looked at the parrot and smiled cruelly. Why aren't you running? My dad was right. You're an idiot. I have no idea what kind of gold you ate to have such good luck. You actually managed to prove your Tao. The parrot curled its lips and pointed at the Thunder origin. Idiot. What do you think this is? All I have to do is fart, and I'll trigger the Thunder origin and blast you to pieces. The Chaos Emperor was shocked. He coldly looked at the Thunder origin. All the hair on his body stood on end. The seemingly calm Thunder origin actually made him feel the aura of death. If I die, you won't live either. The Chaos Emperor coldly said. TCH, this divine bird is the future king of beasts. How could I die prematurely? The parrot's eyes flashed. After thinking for a moment, it still couldn't think of a good solution. It could only stamp its little claws and signal for the Emperor's sword to guard this place. It then scampered out of the Thunder region. The Chaos Emperor was about to give chase when the Emperor's sword trembled and attacked the Thunder origin. Why don't you stay and accompany me? The Emperor's sword spirit's voice was hoarse and filled with vicissitudes of life. Its voice contained a terrifying will that left no room for argument. The Chaos Emperor was stunned. He looked at the Emperor's sword vigilantly and said coldly, You have a sword body. You can live forever and protect the human race. Do you think it's worth it to die with me? The parrot constantly dodged and pounced out of the Thunder region. Its speed was so fast that it was almost pierced by the lightning several times. Fortunately, its luck was heaven-defying and it successfully rushed out of the Thunder region. Boom! Whoosh! The Thunder region flashed with lightning and thunder, instantly erupting. Its aura surged into the galaxy and suppressed the universe. The parrot's feathers stood on end. It couldn't care less anymore. It used its strongest strength and innate talent to instantly disappear from the chaos universe. The Thunder Origin was triggered by the Emperor's sword. The terrifying Thunder Origin transformed into tens of thousands of giant dragons that instantly drowned the Emperor's sword and the Chaos Emperor, tearing apart the Emperor's sword body and the Chaos Emperor's Dao body. The Chaos Emperor's blood stained the Thunder region. His physical body was directly penetrated. Hundreds of giant dragons tore at his body, tearing it into pieces. A strand of essence blood wanted to restore his physical body, but his vitality was instantly suppressed. He could only roar in anger and didn't even have the strength to curse. The Chaos Emperor wasn't immortal. He could die. At this moment, he was terrified and frantically dodged. However, the entire Thunder region was in chaos. The aura surged into the galaxy and instantly destroyed all his vitality. A Chaos Emperor fell. The Thunder Origin was too strong. It was so strong that even the Chaos Emperor couldn't resist it. The Thunder Origin that had been gathered for hundreds of thousands, or even millions of years was invincible. There was nothing it couldn't destroy. Roar. The Emperor's sword body was penetrated by the Thunder Origin and broke into two. Then it was surrounded by lightning. One after another, the guardian sword that had protected the human race for millions of years was torn into pieces. It fell into a lonely star, and the sword hilt pierced into a rock. The sword spirit was obliterated, but for the human race, it didn't complain. The Emperor's sword had protected the human race for its entire life. At this moment it was gone. Although it wasn't part of the human race, it was more worthy of respect than most of the human race. It fought earth-shattering battles, but it left quietly. Only the mournful cries of the heaven and earth were sending it off. The Emperor's sword was also destroyed. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Wind and snow intersected. 1,000,000 miles of the chaos universe turned white. A solemn and magnificent aura rushed into the clouds. No one dared to profane it. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.